All right, Kingkillers, we're covering chapters 119 through 122 in this episode. We cover Kvothe having a day where he gets picked on in the lunchroom, then punched in the balls, and finally beat down by Vashet. He also makes friends with Penthe, and then gets Vashet back on his side with his beautiful music. You'll also learn why Kvothe kept getting rocked in the junk, mine and Tim's worst blows to our nuggets, and we come up with our new favorite theory hidden in the subtext. It's a good one. So sit back and enjoy. All right, welcome back to the Kingkiller podcast. Dan, got with me Tim. What's going on?
I am here. And as are you.
I got a big question for you.
Uh-oh.
It's a tough one. What is your favorite dinosaur?
My favorite? I don't know. Pterodactyl, I guess, if I had to pick one.
Well, there you go. So Tim had sent a text message earlier saying, when you grow up, people stop asking you what your favorite dinosaur is. They don't even care. And there, you see, I care.
I don't feel like you cared, though.
Yeah, I listened to your response and everything. I'm not sure what you said, but I heard it at first.
Exactly. So you don't care. Well, although
I heard it was a pterodactyl. Can you spell pterodactyl?
Yeah, it starts with a P. Silent P. P-T.
Yeah, spell it.
P-T-E-R. And then a dactyl. Pterodactyl.
Yeah, I could spell it. I just don't want to.
Yeah, I don't want to either. Fuck that noise. I just like the beginning. I like to feel like I'm really smart that I know there's a P there.
Yeah.
That makes me feel good about myself.
I feel really educated that I know the first letter. I don't have any idea what comes after it, but I learned that first letter. Lock that shit down into the memory. That's in there. It's not going anywhere.
Whenever there's a silent P, I'm really drawn to it. Like Ptolemy. I like that
Who
name.
Named these dinosaurs? Like just absolute terrible naming. The spelling is always jacked up. Like just terrible naming.
I hope there's somebody out there that listens to this. It's like it's not. Like I'm mispronouncing it. It's pterodactyl.
Pterodactyl. You pronounce the P. You got to really hit the P hard.
Or,
pterodactyl.
When someone says something and you're in intense disagreement and you want to write them off and you say, that's the beginning of it's a pterodactyl.
Yeah.
That's what the guy said.
How you pronounce it.
Because they had all these fossils, and they were like, all right, one more, Dave, one more name. You got it? And then he said, pterodactyl. And they were like, yeah, I like that. That's what
I think people became less interested in finding out what your favorite dinosaur is when Jurassic Park came out. Really, like once you saw we got them, they're all over the place, and they have tons of them, and they're not extinct anymore. That really kind of lowered the...
The mystique?
The mystique of dinosaurs once you knew they existed again.
You know what? I really hope there are people out there that do think there's islands they just won't have access to that have dinosaurs on.
Yeah, you gotta be one of those Hollywood elites to see the dinosaurs.
They're just not aware of like the second and third and other installments of Jurassic Park that made it pretty clear that this would be a problem.
There's a picture of Steven Spielberg standing next to the Triceratops from the first movie, and people will put up there like, this is a picture of Steven Spielberg standing next to his hunting trophy, and they put it up like he hunted and killed this thing, and then there will be like people when they post it, if it's a big account, you'll see just a flood of angry posts about him killing that majestic animal, not realizing it's an extinct dinosaur.
Well, it's not even just an extinct dinosaur. It's a recreation of something that once existed.
It's a mechanical, it's some mechanical thing.
How dare you? How dare you destroy a mechanical reproduction of something
Yeah.
that was so majestic?
It's pretty hilarious, like the stuff people will fall for, just the stupid memes that people will take seriously and get all up in arms over.
It's funny. It is funny when people get their nipples twisted about something that's not even.
Yeah, it's not even a thing. They didn't take the time to like read 5 comments in to save themselves the trouble of being mocked.
I think what they're remembering is they're remembering that moment when I don't even know who the actor that was the lead scientist. He like lays on the dinosaur and it breathes and he gets lifted up. That's what they're remembering.
I saw a
kill that
meme.
Beautiful thing.
Saw a meme the other day where, because that Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial going on, and they said that they had Amber Heard, and they were like, this is what she said in her opening statement, and then they said it was like she ripped it line from The Talented Mr. Ripley, and I saw that, and there was no like links to anything like her testimony or anything like that, and so I was like, there's no way that's real. There's no way she did that. Someone would have stopped that. I was like, I'm not even gonna look that up. There's no chance that is accurate. She could have, because like someone like her lawyer or someone would be like, no, you can't fucking quote a movie and line for line. I was like, it's so preposterous that like it has to be not true. I'm not even gonna look it up, but I encourage you to look it up and you'll see I'm right. There's no way that is accurate. No way she said. And she quoted The Talented Mr. Ripley line for line.
She could just go up there and say, Matt Damon.
She just keeps quoting movies.
That would make me like her. She keeps
going from different movie to different movie.
If she just found ways, like if you were going to do, like,
You can't handle the truth. You need me on that wall.
If you were just, I would love that. If you just refuse to participate, just only quote like South Park movies, only South Park. Well, I like the idea of what you just said though, is where like literally
do
the extraordinarily well known.
Who's that Billy Bob Thorpe character? He's like tater tots, whatever his like phrase was. I can't remember, like the Sling Blade or whatever that movie
Sling
was.
Blade. I can't remember. Yeah, that's crazy. I don't remember. I think I only saw that like once. It was good.
He had a distinctive way of talking that stood out. That was, when it came out, it was quoted all the time. People talk like that. It's hilarious. But yeah,
it has a Homer Simpson type vibe
I wish Amber Heard would have done that, but I'm very confident that she didn't do that, because had she done that, I would have thought it was hilarious.
The little bits I've seen, she's not putting on a performance to entertain. She's trying her best to look very broken, and
they got a lot of money on the line here, so they're not going to be fucking around.
Yeah, and she's not coming out of this looking good either, so she really needs to get as much as she can.
She had already lost the publicity war coming in, so there was no turning that around.
Well, then she desperately needs the money then.
No. He's suing her.
Oh.
He's suing her for defamation. So, she'd already lost the publicity war. Like, she's... Like, you could just see it's overwhelmingly... I don't even look the shit up. I don't look at the clips, and I'm definitely not watching the trial of Amber Heard and Johnny Depp.
I've just seen like a few clips
many
that are
people
entertaining.
Post about it that it's just, I can't help but see people talking about it.
It's yet another great character that that Kyle Dunnigan does now, as he does
Johnny Depp.
It's hilarious, man. It's really funny. Everything he does is fucking hilarious to me. But
yeah, Kyle Dunnigan's great. Could you imagine, like, if O.J. Simpson trial had happened during the age of social media?
Jesus, yeah.
Like, I mean, kids that weren't around, they don't understand. Like, that was like a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, O.J. Simpson murdered 2 people. Like, what the fuck just happened? Like, this is like the goofy dude from, Naked Gun, and basically the Bill Cosby of of sports
Yeah,
analysts, and
he was a
the
commercial
Heisman Trophy
star.
winner, one of the greatest athletes of all time. And he was just like it'd be like if you heard Michael Jordan just
Well,
murdered, not
and
quite Michael Jordan, but like maybe like a like a
Steph
Magic
Curry.
Johnson or something.
I would say
or,
like
Steph Curry
because
would be a good example.
He's somebody who's like, yeah, he was in so many nationwide advertisements.
Yeah.
With like large companies. I mean, you saw him all the time. Then he's in like those movies, like Naked Gun, like movies that people were seeing all of these movies, and having it start off with the whole Bronco thing, like that whole thing starting the whole man. Yeah, it was like you said, it was a phenomenon.
It was
super.
It was so big. Like I remember, like they stopped classes in high school and put on the verdict being read. Like all the teachers were like, "Fuck this! I want to see what the hell happens here."
Yeah. That was.
I remember like people like after it was announced, people like coming out of class, running down the hallway. The juice is loose. The juice is loose.
Yeah, it was a very charged atmosphere. You could like feel all the tension. Yeah, it was pretty wild. So yeah, apply that to today. Completely different experience. I mean, it would just be constant. I mean, like anything that happens, like the Will Smith Chris Rock thing, it becomes massive, and you're seeing it
disappears
everywhere.
so quick these days.
Yeah,
like that lasted for a long period of time. That doesn't seem like it was like a year-long event.
No. Yeah, no, it did last a very long time. That's the thing. It was a long trial.
Nowadays, like things kind of pop in for a minute. Everybody's real hot about it, and then the next thing comes up, and everybody's real hot about that. Moves pretty quickly these days.
Very short attention span.
All you got to do is pretty much like if you find yourself in the eye of the storm, just keep your head down for like a week, and it'll pass.
Yeah.
But we'll try to avoid becoming finding ourselves in the hurricane with I'm gonna try to keep Tim on a leash, make sure he doesn't say anything that gets us in trouble.
No, it sounds like it'd be kind of fun. It sounds like it'd be really stressful, but it's a good exercise.
I will turn on you, and I will side with everybody else, and I will do lots of speeches denouncing you, distancing myself from you.
That really worked well. So I go completely silent and don't say anything. And
I hit the offensive circuits.
You go on the offensive super hard. So then me not saying anything is only worse.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
it's great advice. Just completely Jesus.
Oh man. I'll write a tell-all book and everything.
Nice.
So yeah, go ahead, say whatever you want. But we are starting with chapter 119 in this episode, titled Hands. And in this one, Vashet sends Kvothe to go talk to people around the town. And he gets some, she wanted him to learn some lessons from the people around. And then when he comes back, he gets jacked in the testicles again. And while he's trying to recover, Vashet challenges him when he complains about not being able to use the sword, pisses her off, and she whoops that ass.
Yeah, I mean, he makes the same mistake he just made.
Yeah, just the previous chapter.
But I think that does go to that speaks to how disabilitating getting hit in the balls is. You're not going to think clearly afterwards. And the line she uses where it's like, "Oh, I saw her kick you. It wasn't that hard."
I think he's right, though, when he was talking about, like, I don't know if it would have mattered, because it was like, you just did this the previous chapter.
Yeah.
You just did the same thing. You saw the cliff's edge, you were at, and then you just stepped right over it this time.
I mean, so I know we've made this case enough, but it feels like it bears repeating because I still see it out there. Not enough people have heard it. Again, this is not how a Mary Sue acts. Right? Yeah. He learns from his mistake, you would think, but he doesn't. He makes the same mistake, and it's even worse, right? Because
it's a perpetual mistake. This is his most common mistake that he makes repeatedly through the book, speaking without thinking, and he he does this again, like he does this big time with Malwin, like lets his temper get the best of him. Sometimes it's that his temper gets the best of him. Sometimes he just starts talking without thinking. Does the Michael Scott where he's like, I just talk. I don't even know where I'm going.
There's a couple cool things about that, because many times that's the sleeping mind, where it leads him into great things when he doesn't think so much. He doesn't get in his own way, right?
Yeah.
But it's going to lead him into trouble. And what's really cool about what happens here is Vashet sees what we end up finding out about him as well, is there is something deep inside. And what's deep inside is he wants revenge, right? I mean, that's kind of what's stirring him, what's pushing him along. She's seeing that without seeing it, right? He's not telling her what's going on, what his deep intention is. But he's clearly, I think what she's seeing is he's broken. He's got an agenda, and that's why she's like, you're putting on a facade. You're putting on a face that's, you're basically, you're duping me. Right?
Yeah.
Is kind of what she's getting at.
Well, I think, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I guess that's kind of the gist of it's interesting because he is broken. He is going after these things, and that is kind of what really is pushing him. He has a hidden agenda, but that's not 100% what he's doing here. I mean, although it sounds like it, and since situations like this where he's like, I'm getting armed up to be able to take some shit on, but we know coming in that wasn't his full motivation. He was going for Tempe, he was going to help his friend, and also,
and what the Kvothe told him.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
Kvothe telling him, like, if he wanted to find anything about the Chandrian, he'd have to go, all the way to the Stormwall Mountains.
Yeah, so he's following that. It's not, well, I was going to say he was following his instincts, but yeah, the Kvothe really spun his head around too. So, but it also makes sense. I mean, if he's searching for, if he's doing his father's thing, right, searching for stories, yeah, go to the ends of the map, man.
Yeah.
And what does he find? He finds like a tremendous
huge nugget.
amount. Yeah.
Huge nugget. Gets their names. But I think with his impulsiveness, like where you see it shine is when it's time to act. Like when he has to, like, okay, like the Dracus starts running through Traben, and he's just reacting in that situation. He's not overthinking things. He's just acting quickly to try to stop a dangerous situation. Same with when Fella is with Fella in the alley. Yeah. Like, I mean, there's just numerous examples where when he's in trouble and there's a dangerous situation and he just goes off instinct, it works out very well. Where it gets him in trouble is he's got a flash pan temper. He's very quick-witted. He's got a very biting wit too. And those kind of aspects of him can rub people the wrong way. So when he's reacting just with his words and he's careless with them and he's just speaking without thinking about how the other person's going to react to what he's saying, that gets him in trouble. Even though it might not be his, if you understood like his true motivation and like he had a chance to like step back and rephrase it and say it a different way, he could probably, you would understand him better. But he's just got such a sharp tongue that he can set the people spinning when they hear what he has to say, and then be like, what the fuck, what is wrong with you?
So just to think about that, if this was a impromptu session with like Cheyenne, he probably doesn't just say these things, right? He'd be thinking more deeply about what he's about to say. Instead of just going right off the cut, because he admits he was getting more and more comfortable with Vashet, so he's kind of speaking his mind. But he's still being logical with what he says. It's just, dude, you're missing the bigger picture. She just reiterated this. She almost broke his shoulder or put his shoulder out of socket, proving the point. And that should have sunk in, especially if he's Mary Sue, right? But yeah, it should have sunk in anyway if he's just a diligent student. But he's not after getting kicked in the balls and whatever other reasons in his mind,
Yeah, and I mean, even like when he's talking to the mayor about killing the troop, that is the perfect example of like this dude sometimes just does not think about the words that he's saying and how people are going to react to him. And he's very consistent with his character, but like when he starts talking to the mayor, and he's telling him about what he did, and he's like, no, I murdered these troop. I murdered the troop. I killed them all, even the women. There was women among them. And it's like, why are you describing it in this way? Like, you should have led with, I found these guys, they had killed your troop. They were raping these 2 girls. Mm-hmm. And I stopped them and saved the girls, and I had to kill them, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like, that's how you lead into it. Like, you lead in that they killed your troop, and I killed them, not I killed your troop. And then you don't explain to them, you did everything in reverse. It was like, what the fuck kind of strategy is this? This is like the worst way to explain what happened. I can't think of a way you could have explained that worse.
Bury the lead. It's the hero. Lead with the hero's story.
Yeah.
The justification, so you don't sound like a crazy person.
Saved some girls from being raped by murderers. Like, not so I killed your troop. Oh, but no, not your troop. Let me back up. They're not actually your troop. They're murderers and rapists. But it's like why would you describe it that way? What an idiot. Such a stupid move.
The idea of starting with so I had to kill these people, and I kind of, to some degree, I don't want to say I completely enjoyed it, but kind of enjoyed it. I think I'd be really good at it. He leads with sociopathic type. I killed him.
I started to feel bad about it, but then I had a dream, thought about it some more, and now I don't feel bad about it at all. I murdered men and women. Killed some women too. Don't feel bad.
He just leaves it at that, and then you're like, yeah. Okay, you want to tell me more about the situation?
Hey, I murdered your troop, but, slept on it. There's some women in there, but I slept on it, thought about it, and I don't feel bad.
Don't give any of the circumstances.
Like, I mean, why? Why did this happen? Like, well, it's not actually your troop. I probably should have told you that. They're murderers and rapists, and they murdered your troop. So I didn't actually kill your troop. I killed the people that murdered your troop. Yeah, but the way he says it blows up in his face and completely destroys everything, nearly everything he created with the mayor.
I mean, again, these are not actions of a Mary Sue, right? In terms of
actions of an impulsive kid who can't fucking hold his tongue and needs lessons in how to be more tactful.
Which is really funny. Well, not funny, but it's odd to a degree because he is a showman, right? He's all about story. He's all about presenting how you present things. And when he's on a stage, he kills it. But when he's not on a stage, he doesn't know how to plead his case. I mean, he does a good job. Well, he does a good job most of the time on the horns. Not always, though. Although a couple times he was like drugged and shit.
Yeah. I mean, he'll fly off the handle at him and
Ambrose.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of it's that temper. I mean, the temper obviously gets to him with Maelwyn, but even before that, it was just bad tact. It's not a perfect character. He's got flaws, and that is a major one. Is his level of tact is not he's not proficient at it.
I guess what bothered me is somebody brought up the book, and then I just said, it's amazing, you should read it, blah, 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 whatever. And some person was like, the main character is a bit of a Mary Sue. I'm like, that's a problem in itself. It's either they are or they aren't. It can't be a bit, right? Yeah. Isn't that a problem on the definition? Then why are we using this term for? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense to describe such a flawed character as a Mary Sue. It just doesn't. I mean,
no, again, but bit of a Mary Sue is what bothers me. Where it's like, well, then why even use the term?
But and even then, it's like he's not really. Even on the edge. He's like so far away from it that it doesn't make any sense. Like, I mean,
so that's basically like saying
we talked about it a million times. It's just someone saying that he's really talented at a lot of things.
I think what happens is enough people say it that other people are then like, well, I should put this warning out there. Like, a lot of people do that. It's like, well, I got to put this warning out. They put in the same post, they put the warning of third book's not out yet. Yeah. I don't do any of those warnings.
Those are the worst. Like, I don't understand why people recommend books and this happens with every series.
Yeah, it's
Like, I mean,
ridiculous.
people will
Like,
recommend Stormlight Archive, and they'll be like, it's a really good book. Now, be patient with it. It's a bit of a slow burn. So, you know, it might take you a while to get into it. But
like,
if
then
you
I'm not
get
gonna
to
read
the
it.
end, yeah, it's like, dude, it's 1,000-page book. You can't fucking sell that book like that. You shut the fuck up. You stop talking
Yeah.
about that book. You don't talk to anybody else about that book.
I will
You're
say,
going
if
to
you
ruin it for people.
if you tried to sell me that way, I wouldn't want to read it.
Yeah, no, I'm not reading
And
it.
it's also ridiculous because I started to, because the way one of our friends reacted, I was like, oh, maybe it's not that great. The Zeth chapter's early, and it gets jumping quick. So I don't know what the hell. Like, that was one of my critiques of what somebody said. I'm like, it gets going quick. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, well,
But
not as far as
he
I'm
was just
concerned.
like, I don't even know what's going on. It's like there's,
Well, you just started the
and he
book,
was like, there's a
so-
princess, and I was like, what book are you reading? There's no princess?
Well, so that's just a focus problem.
Yeah.
Is what's happening there. Are
It's
you reading?
but this was a person who read like the first 5 chapters over like a 3-month span. It was like, well, how can you read a book like that? You're reading like at a 5 pages, not even 5 pages a day. Like, I don't even know what the hell you're doing. You're not reading it.
Yeah, it's really. I would stop with the caveats, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you like a book, just say you like it.
Yeah.
It's badass and whatever. A lot of people, though, when they put out, recommend some books to me, they have their own reasons, a list of like, I like this, this, and this. So connect some things there, but that's it. But I recommended the book
fine. Just
at one
say
point.
the things you like. You know, I like it. You might too. If you wanna throw in like some caveats, the caveats should be something like, look, a lot of people really love this book. Some don't. You know, it's not for everybody, but it's an extremely popular book, and it's definitely worth checking out. So, you know, it's definitely something you should check out because the amount of people who love it is significant. So it might be a book that you absolutely fall in love with.
One of the funny things is many times if I do recommend it, don't worry. There's going to be some people that are going to go ahead and post the caveats for you. So don't worry about it because they're going to, and it's the 2 we just talked about basically. It's like, oh, there isn't a third. Who gives a shit? There's 2. Yeah. Like, are they good?
I'm not going to recommend Stormlight Archive because there's going to be 10 books. Like, well, the first 5 cover the first half of the story, and then you got 5 more that are going to be coming out in like 15, 20 years.
I don't understand the reasoning to wait. Like, should I not read any author until they're dead so I know everything's done for that author, and then I'll read their books?
I only read dead authors because I don't want them to come out with another book, and you know, then I don't know where things are going to go.
I don't like being disappointed.
If you need the end of a story for the story to be good, then that series sucks. The series sucks because if it needs the end, then I feel like I'm going to be wasting my time reading like the first 4 or 5 books or 3 books or 2 books, however long the series is. If those books aren't great on their own, I don't want to fucking read the series.
Yeah. I mean, well, and a lot of my favorite books have kind of, to a degree, almost like weak resolutions. So it's not for me. It's not a must. It's the ride itself. If I enjoy the ride, I'll recommend the ride.
Yeah.
And I'll take the ride multiple times.
Yeah.
But, you know, then I'll throw the caveat of, by the way, just so you know, there's an end to the book, and by the last page, it's like over. That's disappointing. I was really disappointed when it didn't continue forever.
Just letting you know, I really love this book, and unfortunately, there's a stopping point.
Unfortunately, he stopped writing it. I don't know what his problem is, but he stopped. He like wrote another one. It's weird, man. I like this one.
That book, the first book ends, and then you have to go, and there's another book that starts, and then. But then the problem is I get into that one, but then it ends. It's like, what is going on here?
Why does it keep doing this to me?
I'm really enjoying this.
You know, it's crazy. So I was so disappointed. I read another author. Same problem. Yeah. Fucking crazy, dude.
Their books stop at some point.
They're all letting me down.
What they're doing. But yeah, so Kvothe goes around and she sends him to see people around town. And so she's like, once she judged my language only moderately embarrassing, she arranged for me to talk to a handful of people scattered around Hert. And so at first he thinks he's going and seeing like prominent members of the community. But then once he realized he went and talked to this guy that only had 2 fingers, he realizes that she's sending him to learn something from these people. And so this guy, she's trying to get him over his fear of mangling his hands, which to me seems like a bad way to do it. Like to maybe, I guess maybe her thinking is that if he, just deals with the fear, that maybe he can get over it. And so maybe it's just like immerse yourself in it. Like if you're terrified of scary movies, just start watching all of them until you become numb to it, type of thing.
I don't know. I mean, I thought maybe that's part of the motivation. Maybe part of it is kind of going back to what we had before, which is giving him a reason to like appreciate where he is. Although it's weird because some of the stories, it's like, I don't know. It's a fully fledged world, but in this experience of the world, it's a little bit strange, right? Because it's, I mean, other than him, the guy with 2 fingers is the relevant story, obviously.
Yeah.
But the relevant detail, it does give us, as readers, it gives us a much bigger picture of just how proud they are. Like this is a prideful people, man. They are very much proud of what they do, what their duty is. It's interesting. His whole thing is basically, if I wouldn't have had this sacrifice, I'd be less of a man to begin with. I'd be less of an individual, a human being, right?
Yeah.
So it's like he doesn't like necessarily regret it, but that's kind of a vicious way. I didn't think about it as much that way, where it's like, well, this could happen to you, so let's have you talk to some people that have some mangled hands and see if you can like come to grips. Literally.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how effective it was, or like you would think he would need to spend a lot of time with this guy before he'd get comfortable with it. Like, cause I mean, this would scare me.
This is a scared straight
if this was
story.
if this was my worry, and then you just go and show me like this is the reality of it, and the guy's not like, it's no big deal. I adjusted and life's fine. And he's like, no, this sucks. This really sucks bad.
He's like, yeah, I told myself in the beginning, it could be a lot worse, but it's about as bad as you can imagine.
Yeah. It's like this guy's not making me feel better. Yeah, he's making me feel like I am right to be fucking terrified.
Yeah, it's like my life changed for the worse in every way. Is what it sounds like. And I mean, it's not over, but it's a bleak existence is what we hear from this guy.
I'm much less happy.
Yeah, he's not presented as like, but I have this wife and kids I love so much. We didn't hear any of that. He's just a cook. He makes some food. And
he's like saying, he gives the aspect of, I believe it was worth it. But still, like everything else he says, he sounds like a real bummer.
He says worth it for like life had been lived. Type situation.
Yeah, like,
But that sucks.
But like, he's like, because had I not done that, I wouldn't have had the 20 years of greatness. It's like I had to have the, now the rest of my life sucks balls, but at least I had 20 great years.
That's so depressing. Like I don't want to live in existence where that happens. Where it's like there needs to be consistent upward motion for me.
I don't want to. Yeah, I don't need the high. I don't need the extreme high. Let me get just kind of a level, slow upgrade.
You don't want to do the what is it?
I don't need these peaks and valleys.
Well, that like the what the fuck? The Ed Bundy peak. Are those guys with the guys that like I blew my knee out in high school, but if that didn't happen, the constant story the rest of their lives is like I blew my knee out. Before then,
I was thinking of the serial killer.
Superstar.
I was like,
is it? No, it's not Ted Bundy. Ed Bundy. It's Ed, right?
No, it's I think the character on the TV show is Ed Bundy, but the serial killer is Ted Bundy. But that's what I heard.
Example. Yeah, very different example.
Yeah, I was like, are you portraying like what he did as a good?
You think I'm going
example?
Back? Like what we were saying earlier?
What's going on here? Yeah.
Like my theme is I'm really
like that's a guy that really fucking lived a good life. Like he went and he had a dream and he went and dedicated everything to it, and he accomplished it.
Dude, if I ended up finding out that I killed some people, this would be the episode people would go back to.
Yeah.
And be like, why does
he
he
was
keep talking
selling
about
Ted
this?
Bundy. Talking about him like he's a role model.
No, what I was aiming to talk about is that guy that was like, oh, dude, if I could have gone pro, or if I could even just made it to college.
Scored 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
In my high school tournament.
That's the peak. That's what I was talking about. Guys that peak early, or anybody that peaks early and then everything's downhill from there. That is a depressing, sterile existence that I have no want to be any part of.
No.
Whatsoever.
No, you got to find other things in life. Like, and that's what, like, you would think, like, she would have sent him to someone who found other things about life that, you know, he can find joy in. And this guy does not seem like that. He seems like kind of a bummer to talk to about the hand thing. So, not really sure on the strategy. I mean, other than maybe just like show you a bad case, and then you're seeing like, well, that's as bad as it's going to get. And so maybe it's not as bad as my absolute worst fears, but
it could also
sound great.
It could also be the utility could be understanding the sacrifice that some of these people make.
Yeah.
You know, and having more appreciation for, again, like what she said before, this is why Quesaret's so pissed. You're stealing this.
Yeah.
Which again, kind of said not, but the idea that he's stealing this guy's existence, right? His sacrifice by, coming in seems a little unfair to suggest that. But if it was, he did get kicked in the balls a bunch, so kind of punished him for it.
Yeah.
You want to come here? You're going to take a bunch of kicks in the balls.
I like when he's feeding everybody, because this guy's like the lunch lady of the the town. And so, like, Kvothe's working with him, feeding everybody. And while Kvothe's cutting up, slicing some bread for people, half the people are deciding they don't want bread today. Yeah. And then Quesaret, like, openly comes up, just shows absolute disgust and just leaves her tray of food and walks away. It's like, not going to eat today.
Yeah, that's
they're
pretty,
doing they're doing like the worst cases of, like the Bill Burr line about like the like how many movies are they gonna do like this, where it's like, the first black team to swim, and then like some white guy standing outside of the pool being like, "Get him out of the pool! That's a white man's pool." It's like they're like get him away from my bread. That's A-Dim job.
Yeah,
like they're getting real racist with it here.
Well, I guess that's that's the thing, right? It's the thing people do.
Yeah. I mean, it's ignorant and it's extremely petty. It's an extremely petty version of racism. Like, I'm not gonna eat bread or eat a meal because you're serving it. Like, Jesus, get over yourself, you fucking whack job.
Yeah, that's an intense.
It shows you how but it does what it really does is it demonstrates how isolated he is in this community, because his only interaction with anybody is with Vashet for the most part, and Celine. He's got a little budding thing going on with Celine, but outside of that, like, I mean, half the people, they don't just dislike him, they absolutely find him revolting, and to the point that they wouldn't eat bread if he served it.
Yeah, you are emphasizing, I mean, that's a good example now that I realize that what you're saying about Bill Burr is like just absolute intense knee-jerk hatred of anything that's unknown.
Yeah.
Somebody comes in here, who's this dude? Who's this guy? And then just complete mistrust.
Yeah. And just the level of pettiness. It's such a high level of pettiness.
It's very tribe mentality, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever, tribalism, whatever. It's very, very much the lower tier of how our mind works.
You talk about like an innocuous thing, and not only that, like he's making an effort to like serve you, to help, to pitch in, and that's the time where you're like, you disgust me.
Well, like, also they respect
weird.
They respect Cheyenne, they respect Vashet, They have utmost respect for them, and their
Yeah.
judgment is saying he at least belongs enough that we're teaching him. That he's being included. So
Yeah.
once that judgment's made, if you actually trust their judgment, then I'm not saying olive branch, but the idea of like walking up and just like you said, just like being utterly disgusted and walking away, pretty ridiculous. But
Yeah. And, I mean,
and
it's just,
especially
it's such a
if
petty thing. Like, I mean, if he was doing something like, okay, if you see him and the animosity is over the K-Tan and that, and you see him practicing the K-Tan, maybe that sets you off or something. Well, like the guy's pitching in doing chores, and you're like, oh, you disgust me. How dare you? How dare you pitch in?
I mean, unless he's intentionally offending you at every turn. For me, it's got to be personal. It's got to be a personal.
Oh, it's just. I mean, it's an intense level of hate to like hate someone who just pitched in and helped out to do chores. Like, I mean, just it's an irrational hatred.
And have no personal reason. I mean, you kind of see it also like if K-Surrette's doing it, to some degree, that could be enough. Like not everybody has to pack in and be like,
yeah, but I mean, it didn't seem like she was the first one to be skipping the meal. It seems like there's a lot of people that were like, I'm not getting barbarian cooties. And so they were skipping that bread.
Yeah.
But it's irrational. I mean, you can't like come up with a rational excuse for it. It's complete irrational hatred. I mean, and it's petty. I mean, I like at least the fighting stuff would be understandable, like because then you feel like he's stealing from you. This is like a guy pitching in, trying to help out, and and you don't even lower the level of hatred for him, in that moment. Like at least like guys like picking up trash, and you're like, ugh, gross! I'm never using that trash can again.
What is kind of what I appreciate about Rothfuss, including it also in this world or in this group, is it exists in our world, and if you get to know other cultures,
100%.
every single culture has it. It's a people thing. It's a case by case basis thing. Every single culture has people who aren't like this. Every single culture has people who are like this.
100%.
All of them, and there's no just like, oh, those people are like that. Everybody, they all have it. It's just what do you call it? Tribal mentality, man.
Yeah, and they all feel very justified. And I hate X group, but I'm justified in hating X group because they're terrible people. But it's just irrational.
It's really funny.
You can't have rational conversations with people like that.
It's so abandon them. It's so ridiculously irrational for anyone who has met a number of people in their own culture. Because then how it is, how people are. So to still adhere to it is beyond ridiculous. But,
I mean,
people like their habits, I guess.
Show me 5 people, and there will be 5 different personalities.
Yeah.
I don't care what their race is, or what country they're from, what city they're from, what state they're from. Everybody's there's so many differences. There's similarities and there's different cultures and stuff like that, but for the most part, people are very fucking different.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what you get, it's got to be like built into the DNA of humans because it's existed and it's never going to go away. You're not going to eliminate it. That tribal shit, where some people take that tribal shit and turn it into an intense level of hatred of outsiders. I don't see how that ever goes away.
The funny thing is, it actually doesn't. It just gets pushed into other areas as well. It can expand and contract, right? And certain people are influential, and they can get more people on board.
What's interesting is like you see it even amongst a group. So you could like take the ADEM, and I guarantee you there would be pockets of the ADEM that hate other ADEM. That group of ADEM is the worst. There's something wrong with that group of ADEM. Like, I mean, so like, no matter even when you narrow down the brackets, there's always there's the outsider. If people don't have an outsider already, they will invent one.
Oh no, dude! Think about any group. Any group, like we're talking about people that like fantasy books, but they still like they put a label on one thing, and then they're like, that person's like that. They like this book for this. Well, I don't like the book for that. I like it for this, and then just divide. It's like in the smallest ways, people have. But and a big part of that is just a motivation.
Popular. One of a good example of that is like people who like fantasy, but they don't like the popular fantasy. So the authors that are the most successful, those are trash. People who like them don't understand what good writing is. And if they liked my underground hit that has only been read by 5 people, then they would know what really good writing is. Like, I have a sophisticated palate. You like very unsophisticated thing. That's why you like Brandon Sanderson or Martin or Rothfuss, while I like so-and-so who you've never heard of. Same thing with music. I like the underground people. And then like, or you see it with like, I like, people who liked 50 Cent when he was underground and he was off label.
He blows up,
and then, then he blew up, and then it was like, the guy's trash, sold out. He's a sellout.
Yeah. It's really funny because
people find ways
to
hate people they should like.
Some of it's pretension. Some of it's also just that search for their own deviation, right? They're like how unique they are as an individual is, well, I like these things, but once it goes outside of my box, nope, not at all. Yep. Don't like it at all. And you like it? Yeah, I liked it 10 years ago. You like it now? You like it now?
You idiot.
Oh, you're so stupid.
You're like me 10 years ago. That person was a moron.
Your one note palette for music or whatever, literature, anything. Yeah, people are funny, man. That's people, man.
Yep. But and then so he goes and he works with this guy, and then I like, when he gets alone with him and they start talking about specifically, he's like, Vashet tells me your swordplay is progressing poorly, he said without preamble. She says you fear too much for your hands, and this makes you hesitant. Firm reproach. No, and I just think this guy doesn't understand, like, if he felt Kvothe's hands and he like really looked at them, he'd see like those are some fine ass hands, and he'd be like, look, if I had those hands, I'd be very protective of them too.
One thing that it kind of does come up to me is like, if I was in Kvothe's shoes, I'd be like, fuck's this guy. You know what I mean? Like, what, you're just gonna come up and start talking shit to me about my progress or lack thereof?
Firm reproach. Okay, 2 fingers. You're gonna firm reproach me because I'm scared that my fingers might get cut off?
Yeah.
You have 2 fingers, man. You're my nightmare.
Yeah, you literally represent my nightmare. So, yeah, interesting for you to reproach me.
But yeah, he basically gives him the rub some dirt on it and get over it, and just deal with it, like, be a man type of situation. But yeah, I mean, again, I didn't think it was like the greatest pitch. I mean, he seemed like a cautionary tale of like someone, like, I get that he has a lot of pride in what he did, and he feels great about what he did, and he thinks the sacrifice is worth it because of what he did. He thinks it is worth it, but I'm not sure that I would feel that same way.
Dude, I mean, so basically this guy he's walking around the rest of his life wearing a jersey that says 230.
Yeah.
That's the rest of his life, 230 talents, that's me. Boom. Yep. Just constantly living on that cliff. Yeah. On that high point. And dude, that's a sad existence as far as I'm concerned. Now if they
reminiscing is great, and you can have a lot of fun reminiscing, living up the good old times, but yeah, when you're like,
if you're just stuck
that was it and I can't ever get back to anything better than that, and like that's your mindset, that's not a good mindset to have.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's fine to look back.
Should have some hope for the future.
It's fine to look back, but just constantly but you can't change the past. It's pointless.
Well, it's one thing to look back and reminisce about good times. It's it's another to think like the good times are gone and they can't be recovered.
Yeah,
and
that's
I can't
depressing.
Adjust, and there's no hope for better times in the future. You don't want to go down that path.
No.
You want to think that, Like
Dark road.
you can overcome things and find a different way and find different ways to be happy. There's more than one way to be happy. You don't have to be. It's not just this. If I don't do this, I can't be happy. It's like, no, that's not the case. There's a million ways to be happy.
Yeah, the idea that, I mean, obviously in their world, having two hands is extraordinarily important. Two full hands is extraordinarily important. But like in our world, if somebody was just like they lost their hand, that's it. Like,
Yeah.
dude, what? Like, you know how much you can still do?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot, man. You can still bring to the world, man. Like one hand, Jesus, dude. There's there's a lot of people out there that have a lot less that are accomplishing many things.
I love the way he writes it though at the end where he's like, I tried to think it was not bad, my life would continue on, but no, life stops, much is lost, everything is lost. Then he said, when I dream, I have two hands. We finish the dishes together, sharing silence between us. Sometimes that is all you can share. It's a very bleak way to end that chapter, but or to end that part of the chapter, but it's also extremely well written and put you in that kind of somber mood.
Yeah, that when I dream I have two hands really hits.
Yeah.
After everything is lost, much is lost, everything is lost. Like, damn, dude. Well, I mean, are you making good stew? Like, how good's the stew today? Yeah. Is it really good? Yeah. Did you really get into it?
Fucking Case Red over here, like this guy's like everything is lost and she can't even, stomach eating some barbarian touch bread to make this guy feel good about his stew. She should have been like, look, that fucking bread is gross and got cooties, but that stew's fire, man. You cook some fire stew. Like, I gotta get me a bowl of that.
Yeah, buoy his spirits,
Yeah.
But he seems, I don't know. I mean, that's the interesting thing is like, because it's basically like the way that it's delivered, his whole story is this. It's just like sad sack, basically. Proud, but he doesn't have a lot going on outside of making some stew, apparently.
Well, I would be curious what it would be like in their society, like what the other people would do. It's like, would they build you up? Would they try to pep you up? Or would they look at you and be like, fuck, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, I wonder if
everything is lost.
I wonder if he's a visual reminder.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If he's there.
That's what I mean. Like, he's like their nightmare, so they don't even want to look at him or talk to him, or they don't want to be reminded of what could happen to them.
Man, that makes it even worse.
Yeah, well, might not be that way. It might be that they are empathetic to people who have gone through that. Maybe, and they try to build them up.
Maybe he's like when kids are practicing the K-Tan when they're young. It's kind of like when we would play basketball. I'd be like, Jordan. They're like, Naden. Yeah. Dropping whatever, doing a spin move, like Naden. Wear
jersey, wear their things with 230 on the back.
Yeah. They got 230 written on the inside of their their red silks. Yeah, maybe.
I don't know, man. Like they need to get this guy. Like they should have this guy like training somebody or something, doing something where he's helping somebody. Like this, having him serve food doesn't seem to be the rewarding experience for this guy.
No. But again, that's what's interesting. You got to imagine this guy's got a full-fledged life. What Rothfuss gives us is just this bleak example. Yeah. But yeah, the interesting question is, how does he fit in the society?
This is how he portrays his life to a stranger. He doesn't even put on like a bright front.
Yeah, he's not putting on airs, man.
Yeah. So that doesn't make me think this guy's like going home and, putting on the ball game and getting super excited about, putting his feet up and relaxing.
I like, by the way,
seems more of a guy who goes, sits in the dark and is like, nobody knows.
Yeah. I was going to say that there's a part where Kvothe basically is like Charlie's uncle, where he's like hiding his hands. He's cognizant of, he doesn't have a mangled hand, so he feels bad about it. So it's kind of the opposite of Charlie's uncle, but he's like, I wanted to hide my hands behind my back. He's embarrassed. But yeah,
then we move into a great part. We get Celine. He's like, Celine had a lesson of her own to teach me, namely that there are opponents who will not hesitate to punch, kick, or elbow a man directly in his genitals. Which is hilarious to me that this girl is just like this. The image of just like this 10-year-old fighting Fury, who's just tiny as shit, and then Kvothe like going up against her, and she just keeps rocking him in the fucking testicles. That's so hilarious to me.
Especially when we first meet her, that's her first move.
Yeah.
Now he manages to move to where he doesn't get hit, and Vashet brings up a very good point. It's like, well, eventually she'll grow out of it because this is her main move, and he's like, yeah, I hope so, but it's like, you know, the problem is people would know
you're not adjusting
to move
to the fact that she keeps punching you in the balls, man.
You just keep putting them out there.
Like how many? He's like standing there, like legs splayed wide open, like pushing out his hips, thrusting his hips forward, like when he's fighting. She's
not this time.
Look, try turning sideways. What are you doing, man? You're just like presenting your testicles to this girl, and she just keeps rocking you in them.
He's coming in like, not this time, and then puts his junk right in the front.
It's like it's your fighting form. Stop thrusting your hips forward when you fight. I don't know where you picked this up. I do not even teach that move.
It is also, it's hilarious to consider that the way she does it, she just rocks him, and then she's like, kind of pets him a little bit, pat on the back, and then runs off, skipping away.
So great. Yeah, she'd been fighting her entire young life and had the control of Vashet valued so highly, but that meant she knew exactly how hard to strike and leave me stunned and reeling, making her victory utterly unquestionable. So I sat on the grass feeling gray and nauseous. After incapacitating me, Selena gave me a comforting pat on the shoulder before skipping blithely away.
So there's two things here. Yeah, she has the control, like Vashet's great teacher of control, right? Pulling punches, punching just with the right amount of power. Neither of them know what it's like to get hit in the balls.
No.
They don't fucking know. They don't know how much it takes. I once had someone just like throw a baseball cap across the room. The bill like just grazed my nuts. It was debilitating. Mm-hmm. Like it was painful as shit. It doesn't take much, is my point.
The worst I ever got is playing a soccer game. It's indoor soccer, and it's like around midfield. We're up 1, running out the clock. This guy's got the ball and he's going to shoot. We're trying to shoot it from like midfield, but the clock's running down on him. So he just tries to launch one, and I go to stick my legs out to block the shot, like I lunge at the ball to block it, and he whiffs and goes straight through and punted me straight in my balls. And he rocked me to the point where he lifted me off the ground. He hit me so hard.
Dude.
And like I dropped down, like started dry heaving, and then just laid there. Like the next game was delayed because it was just like, no, give me a minute, man. It's like this guy didn't just tap him. He punted me as hard as he could right in my testicles.
Jesus.
No one complained. Everybody saw me get hit and we're like, oh.
Yeah, that's absolutely brutal.
God, and the guy was like, oh, my bad. And it's like, you suck at soccer. You suck. You're a terrible,
get away from
terrible athlete. You have no coordination. You whiffed.
How does that even happen? I don't think I've ever...
He just reared up, man. He just reared up and the ball kept rolling to his right.
No, but that's horrible.
Yeah, I've seen people whiff, but he just tried to put everything he possibly had on it and just completely missed the ball and hit ridiculous. 2 balls in exchange.
That's way worse than mine. Mine was it was indoor soccer, and I turned around right as this idiot that we played for the longest time with kicked a mini ball. The mini soccer ball is like the perfect size just to really damage your fucking package. And the second I turn around, bam, right in my package, and fell like a fucking ton of bricks.
I didn't
get to start the game. I had to fucking go to the bathroom, like pull myself together.
I once had one where the ball like came across and I volleyed it and I hit it in the sweet spot, right on the bone, right on the top of your foot, and just rocketed it. And it hit this kid square in the nuts and hit him so hard that the ball bounced straight back to me. So like he blocked the shot, but the ball came straight back to me, and then it was just like perfect setup for another volley, and then I just drilled that into the goal and scored. And but like that kid got wrecked right before it. Yeah, soccer was a bad sport for the old testicles. You're getting hit in them every now and again.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean it's kind of a rarity. Obviously, because
Usually
it's
can
not.
get
It's
out
not.
of the way. I mean, ball
Yeah, and
gets hit at you, you
it's
could turn your hip or something.
yeah,
But
yeah,
every now and
yeah.
again, you just don't have the time. The ball gets hit too hard.
That's part of sports. I mean, you see it in basketball, right? Watch the NBA every now and then. Some dude gets fucking slammed by
Smacked in
somebody's
them.
hand or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always funny, and the commentators try to like, they don't really want to
I don't know if
address what really
he's
happened.
got something wrong with him. It's like, yeah, he got drilled right in the
Yeah,
fucking nuts, man.
it's like obvious. But yeah, that bothers me. That also bothers me when Vashet's like, come on, come now. I saw how hard she kicked you." It's like, no, you don't know. You don't fucking know, man. It's so brutal, so brutal. It's the nausea is what's so nuts, man. Like
Her
the
jokes,
fact that you literally feel like you're gonna throw up.
her joke's pretty good though. Still, if you need
Oh
someone to
yeah,
look at them, make sure they're still intact.
yeah.
But yeah, and he's like, I chuckled slightly. It was a mistake. Unbelievable pain uncoiled in my groin, radiating down to my knee and up to my sternum. Nausea rolled over me, and I opened my eyes to steady myself. But yeah, and she gets him up. He's like, no lessons. I don't need any lessons. She's like, well, now's the perfect time for a lesson. Then you need to learn how to fight while you're hurt.
It's a good
And
point.
he's like, you should thank her. Yeah, I'll get right on that.
That is incorrect, but it's a good point that it's good to fight. Learn how to fight when you're down.
Yeah.
Like practice trying to play whatever sport it is once you're exhausted. It's worthwhile in the sense that you're gonna have that in the game.
Yeah. But yeah, then so she gets him up, and then he goes to try to grab the sword, and she stops him, and it's like, no, it's just hands. And he's like, must we? And she's like, must we what? Must we focus always on hand fighting? I said, my sword play is falling farther and farther behind. Am I not your teacher? She asked. Who are you to say what is best? It's like, I'm the one that'll have to use these skills out in the world. And out in the world, I would rather fight with a sword than a fist. When she's like asking him why, he's like, because winning if I'm in a fight, I intend to win, and winning a fight is easier with a sword. Just there, he's like treading on the dangerous ground that he treaded on previously and does not see it. Because then she's like, is like Vashet's outward calm should have warned me I was stepping onto thin conversational ice. But I was distracted by the nauseating pain radiating from my groin. Though honestly, if I hadn't been distracted, it's possible I wouldn't have noticed. I'd grown comfortable with Vashet, too comfortable to be properly careful. Of course, I said, why else carry a sword? That is a good question, she said. Why does one carry a sword? Why do you carry anything? So you can use it. Vashet gave me a look of raw disgust. And then she's like, why do we bother to work on your language then? She asked angrily, reaching out to grab my jaw, pinching my cheeks, and forcing my mouth open as if I were a patient in the Medica refusing my medicine. Why do you need this tongue if a sword will do? Tell me that. He tries to pull away, and she's too strong for him. She just keeps a grip of him by his mouth.
Dude, that imagery.
Yeah.
Oh man, if that was happening to me, like just when I'm reading it, and then when it's like she grabs him by the face, I'm like, dude, like it would take everything. I mean, if I can't get out of that, that's the most humbling thing that would have ever happened to me.
Yeah, you'd feel like a little kid. You'd feel like a little kid at that moment.
Really
if someone could restrain you by your jaw, like, hold on.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be one thing you got me in a hold or something, but if you grabbed me by my jaw and there was nothing I could do to get out of it, I can't knock your arm away. I can't pull away. I can't punch you away. Like, it'd be like, what am I, like 2 years old? What the fuck is this?
Yeah. What the hell, man? Oh, man. Yeah, that's a hard one. That's a hard one to picture.
But yeah, and then she's like, she lets go of his face and caught my wrist, jerking my hand up in front of my face. Why do you have hands at all and not knives at the end of your arms? Then she let go of my wrist and struck me hard across the face with the flat of her hand. Love this part too. This whole little part where he's like, if I say she slapped me, you will take the wrong impression. This wasn't the dramatic slap the sort you see on a stage. Neither was it the offended stinging slap of a lady in waiting making against the smooth skin of a too familiar nobleman. It wasn't even the more professional slap of a serving girl defending herself from the unwelcome attention of a grabby drunk. No, this was hardly any sort of slap at all. A slap is made with fingers or the palm. It stings or it startles. Vashet struck me with her open hand. But behind that was the strength of her arm. Behind that was her shoulder. Behind that was the complex machinery of her pivoting hips, her strong legs braced against the ground itself beneath her. It was the whole of creation striking me through the flat of her hand, and the only reason it didn't cripple me is that even in the middle of her fury, Vashet was always perfectly in control. Just so great, like that. You can just see that visual image. It actually reminds me of The Office when Pam makes a deal like that she gets to punch Michael Scott because he dates her mom.
Mm-hmm.
And Toby comes up to her while she's sitting at her desk, and he's like telling her how to throw a punch. And he's like, the power comes from the hips. He's like, so you want to get your whole body behind the punch, not punch with your arms, but like you want to twist your hips. And he's like going through and like teaching her how to twist the hips and throw a proper punch. Is like Michael Scott's just looking in there, looking on, watching him show her how to throw a punch. Such a great scene. But that's like, I could picture that of just her putting her entire body, just a fluid motion of like getting a real slap in. Or like if you've seen the videos of the slap competitions.
Yeah.
Ooh, man, does that look nasty.
One of the things that I mean, I like the whole emphasis of what happens here and how much power she's able to put into it, and she's still pulling her punch. But I did also think at this time through, as you read it, her strong legs braced against the ground and the ground itself beneath her, almost to some degree, to me, almost suggests again what we've kind of talked about in this world, how they're so good at fighting. It's like they're drawing on something that is extraordinary. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not just, I mean, here it's talking about mechanics and technique, but
that just sounds like
itself,
a perfectly thrown slap punch. Like, I mean, like the perfect, when you think like not, rocking back, not on your toes, like just perfect feet planted under you, get your whole weight of your body behind the punch, pushing off on the ground. Like, I mean, just seems like perfect technique. Because like when you think of like someone like slapping someone where they just do it with their arm, you're not getting the same kind of power as he's talking about when you're putting your hips and your feet and everything is every part of your body is working together mechanically to put full power into the slap. That's a completely different thing than like reaching out and just using your hand to slap someone in the face.
Yeah, again, it's not he's not being chastised for doing something stupid. It's much more than that.
Yeah. But yeah, and then so it rocks him, doesn't knock him unconscious, but rattles his teeth, makes his ears ring. And she's like, do you think I'm teaching you the secrets of the sword so you can go out and use them? She demanded. I dimly realized she was shouting. It was the first time I'd ever heard one of the Adim raise their voice. Is that what you think we are doing here? As I rolled in her grip, stupefied, she struck me again. This time her hand caught more of my nose. The pain of it was amazing, as if someone had driven a sliver of ice directly into my brain. Jolted me out of my daze so I was fully alert when she hit me the third time. And then, she lets him go, and he's like, it took me a long time to collect myself. When I was finally able to sit up, my body felt loose and unwieldy, as if I'd been taken apart and put back together again in a slightly different way. By the time I gathered my wits enough to look around, I was alone. It's just that whole section, the way he describes that event is just written just so well. Like he writes gooder than most people write.
Oh God, what an awful way to say that. But yes, it's tremendous. It's quite and it's really interesting.
I think about that, just that description, like when you're like, when I was finally able to sit up, my body felt loose and unwieldy, as if I'd been taken apart and put back together again in a slightly different way. Like, who describes things that way? And then you read it and you're like, oh man, that's such a great description of what it's like to have your brain scrambled by a punch.
Clock cleaned, where you're just kind of like, oh, I'm learning to walk again.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's how this works. Yeah. Yeah, his prose is tremendous, man. His ability to really sink you into the feeling of the situation. I mean, in so many different ways, he's able to do it
It's great at painting a
It's
picture.
almost
I mean, you
limitless,
get it's easy to visualize a lot of the scenes that he describes because
Well,
of the
and
way he describes them.
well, and especially this is more than visualization. This is like you're feeling it.
Yeah.
You get to feel it, and there's nothing, I know you enjoy being able to smell that road dirt on Denna's neck,
Yeah.
So like all those types of things too.
But
where the palpable,
to be fair, like I carry a bit of road dirt in my pocket, and so like I pull it out and sniff it, when I'm reading.
Do you
this
do
book.
that? You do that, and then you smell the sweat, you smell your armpit and the road dirt, and then just really get all that feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't take showers when I read this book for those moments.
Smart. Yeah. You really want to get that BO going for sure.
Yeah.
That's
it's great. Like, they could solve this by making this a scratch and sniff book. Then I wouldn't have to do it, but
what a strange idea just for those moments. I mean, you could do it for the Celis flower, right?
Yeah.
You could do it for some of those things. When you're in Florian's world with the honey and the other things that they're eating.
Why has this book got a bunch of stickers in it? Scratch and sniff Snickers.
Is it so they do it like, there's places with flowers, but then also you can smell sweat sometimes. Like, wait, hold on, there's a scratch and sniff sweat sticker.
You smell it like, ooh, that just smelled like real bad BO. You're like, yeah, that's the smell we were going for.
So a couple Halloweens ago, my kids went trick or treating, and Skittles did a whole little stupid thing where one of the Skittles was supposed to be like you're eating a corpse, like a fucking dead person. I didn't know it, and I eat a few Skittles, and one of them, dude, I couldn't get the taste out of my mouth. It was like onion, and it was like I don't fucking know.
They were intentionally making terrible tasting Skittles.
One terrible, awful Skittle in the back, because I ate it. I'm like, what the and then I look at it. It's like, this was intentional.
Why?
Like, what the hell, man? I don't know if they
to
stuck
prank your
with it.
friends.
Ugh, it was terrible. Yeah, it was. I couldn't, dude. It took me forever to get the taste out of my mouth. I mean, all kinds of candy, which I don't really eat a lot of candy, but
reminds me of the time I had friends over, and I asked them if they wanted some salsa, and I put Dave's Insanity sauce in the salsa. I came in eating a chip with just regular salsa on it, and then gave them that. Just let them care. I was like, taste this. I was like, my sister thinks this is hot. And they're like, oh, I love salsa. And they're munching on it, and then it's like took about that 10, 15 seconds where they were just like, hey, you don't think this is hot? And then it just started getting real hot. I'm like, holy shit. And I'm just dying, laughing my ass off.
And shit.
Like, you're an asshole.
Yeah, that's an asshole move. But, you are an asshole.
It was at a time where this was a prank that just kept happening, where you left your food, and someone pull out some Dave's Insanity sauce and sprinkle a little on your hamburger or something.
I will say it's better. It's better than the X-Lax prank.
Yeah.
That people were doing for a while.
Much better.
Like, oh, okay, so my day's over.
Insanity
That's
sauce
cool.
you could recover from after about 15 minutes, and that heat dies down. Yeah,
the laxative is literally,
giving someone
I'm
a laxative
done now.
is like you just ruined the rest of my day.
Yeah, I guess I'll just go home, be by myself the rest of the night. That's cool.
It's like, if I can make it home, you might have just locked me in someone's bathroom.
I'm stuck at
I would be so
Barney's
mad if someone did that to me
for the rest of my night. A public restroom.
God, do that to someone in public. Oh, that's just man, that's fighting right there.
Yeah, that's not cool. Yeah, the get back's gonna be vicious.
Yeah. But that's all I got on that chapter.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so chapter 120, titled Kindness. And in this chapter, Kvothe goes in to eat some lunch, and Penthe comes up, brightens up his spirits a little bit, and when he goes and sees Vashet after his lunch, his dinner, he realizes how much trouble he is in. She's not letting this go, and she's basically told him, take the day, and I'm going to decide your fate by tomorrow.
What you were talking about in the last chapter in terms of Rothfuss's writing, this type of stuff I think is really, really tremendous, what he does with him and Penthe, and just where he's at in terms of his vulnerability. It reminded me of when Will and Sim are he realizes he has friends who
Yeah.
actually care about him.
Yeah, it's very much like that.
Yeah.
Because we've talked about how like lonely his situation would be and how bad it would be, and how, especially for this guy who's always got this feeling of loneliness. I mean, that's a major theme of his life.
It's always just it gets bedded back, but it's a tide that rises within him.
Yeah. Like, he doesn't even consider writing Will and Sim while he's gone. He never thinks to write anybody a letter. He doesn't even think they would give a shit. Even now.
Yeah.
Like, when they're pissed at him for not writing, he's like, just never occurred to me. And, granted, like, they knew where he was at. They could have been writing letters too. But regardless, like, he's not thinking to reach out to his friends, because he's not thinking like that's just something that they would give a shit about. And so he's isolated in that sense. Whereas, like, if he's not around his friends, he's not thinking that they're thinking about him or they give a shit. And then when he's here, he really is isolated. Like, he's got nobody. He doesn't have, Brendor or Braden coming and playing tack with him and keeping him company. He doesn't have the admiration and loyalty from Stapes that he develops. He doesn't have any of these things. He doesn't have his friendship with Tempe like he had in the woods, and somewhat camaraderie with Martin and Hespa and Dedan. He's isolated. He's got his teacher, but that's a loose friendship. And then now he's lost that.
And there's definite conditions. That's the thing. Like, he does actually have pretty much an unconditional friendship with Will and Sim. And I think that kind of grows out of what he has with Tempe. You know what I'm saying? Like,
they're not judging him, and they're not like, he's not on trial for his, ability to be able to walk around the world like normal. Like, she's deciding his fate on, like, do you leave here hobbled?
Well, not just that,
crippled, or do you leave here in one piece? And that's what she's holding over him. How can you be good friends with someone like that?
Well, the last chapter is a great example of it, where he's getting a little bit more comfortable with her, so he's not thinking about what he's saying, and he trips up, and she fucking owns him, man, makes him feel like a child, and then beats the piss out of him.
Yeah.
So that's not an unconditional friendship.
No,
it's not even really a friendship, really.
No, it's not at all.
It's a teacher-student relationship that's pretty vicious. Which, what that made me think of too, was, again, with Denna and her patron, where he's like just totally taken aback. Like, how would you put up with this? How could you possibly be with somebody? And it's like, dude, you could get maimed for what you're doing.
And there's a lot of people that talk about, like, how could the beatings that she's taking, be justifiable? How can you do that in a way where it doesn't come off as evil? And it's like,
you mean for the patron?
Look, as like, I mean, he wrote so many examples in this book. Like, we don't look at the masters and think they're evil. Like, I don't think they should be whipping kids. But I don't think they're evil. And I think what Vashet did, I don't think that was justifiable, but I don't think she's evil. And so I can easily see a situation where, like, Braden or Master Ash, whoever it is beating her, but it's not in an evil way. Even if I don't agree with it, I don't agree with the times Kvothe gets beat. I just don't see those as evil scenarios. I mean, so it's like, what do you mean? He's written in plenty of examples where it's not evil.
That's a really great point to bring up, because we have multiple examples of, and I brought that up before, where it's like kind of the V for Vendetta thing, where it's brutal. It's brutal and it's like torturous, but it's life changing, and it's a way to change one's perspective that you can't just tell them. It's not the type of thing. It's not impactful enough to just try to tell them, don't be scared. You'll be okay. Put them through it, man. And then now, not only are they not fearful, now they have this self-confidence and belief, and it's hard to describe it all in words, what they come out of it with. So that's what I started to consider that is happening with Denna. And it's funny that Kvothe, again, very much not like a Mary Sue, he can't see the other perspectives.
Yeah, if Denna was hearing just these stories and we were only in Denna's head, and we would just be like, "What the fuck?" Like, is
Do you
someone
think
just
he's a sadist
beat the
or
like
like a
if
masochist?
like he's like seeing her with her bruises and shit. If she saw him right now,
Yeah,
it'd be like, "What the fuck are they doing to you, man?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. It's like
why would anybody do that to you?"
you went
And
to
he's
this
not
place to get
explaining it.
tortured.
He's not
Yeah,
explaining the situation, and he's just like, "I ran into a door, or a horse
yeah,
kicked me in the face."
yeah.
Like, it would be like, what the fuck is going on? Like, that person, whoever's doing that to him is evil. And so it's easy to see why we could be, to assume that it must be that whoever's beating her is doing it in a malicious and evil way. I don't think that's, we can say that because it's easy to see where it could be
It
the opposite case. I
it
mean,
it
maybe it is vicious, maybe it is evil. I'm just saying we don't know that for certain.
it puts a strange twist for Denna that we don't have. That she'd be more like a kept girl.
Hmm.
I hesitate to say girl, but I don't know, a kept individual. Um, it's more interesting that it's more interesting that it's not malicious. And I'm trying to give Rothfuss credit here. He typically takes the more interesting course when it comes to his arcs in the books. And she speaks to that, man. He has information I need. She's learning things that she needs, and at least in her mind, she's going to come out of this in a better way. She's going to be more powerful, more able. So I
Yeah,
would think it's not
it's
just
definitely,
malicious.
yeah, it's definitely more interesting. Even if it's malicious, if it's for a purpose, maybe the guy's like a bit sadistic, but there is a purpose. He's not just doing it because he wants to see her feel pain. Like
Yeah,
he's trying to push her in a certain direction. He's trying to guide her, even if it's like for negative purposes. Not, it's not for her benefit. It's only for his benefit. Something along those lines. But if you understood like why he's doing it and what he gets out of it beyond just some evil Disney villain, I think it's more interesting if there's some kind of motivation and purpose that makes sense, that we could see why they do it, even if we think they're wrong and it's bad for them to do what they're doing.
I feel like Rothfuss wouldn't present because that makes her more of a victim, and I have the
That's
feeling
but
that
but
he
that's
would
what he's
present
doing with
her.
Kvothe right here. Is like Vashet is doing this. The whole purpose behind her beating wasn't because he needed to take a beating. She's doing this as to display her, that she's upset with Kvothe. This is like a putting a sign on his face that I've done something wrong, and this guy is a fucking danger to our way of life. She's just like put a big sign around his neck that
Mhm.
all you people who hate him, you're justified in that hate in this moment. Like, I'm putting it on notice that I'm not happy with this guy, and we might be fucking this dude up. She's not
Yeah,
just doing it. She wasn't doing it just to teach him a lesson. She was doing this as a sign for everybody else to see.
yeah.
There was a purpose behind it beyond just because she's sitting there going, she's not going like, okay, I just give him some time to think about it. Now that he sees, I hit it, I beat the shit out of him. Now he's going to be able to reflect. He's not going to make that mistake again. The consequences are, he's seen the consequences. She's like, no, that's not why I did it. She's like, I'm gonna fucking just spend the day deciding whether we send you out of here mangled for the rest of your life.
Hmm.
That's what I'm gonna go determine right now. That was for everybody else's benefit. That doesn't that makes Kvothe seem like a victim in this scenario, because that's not justified. You're gonna mangle him if you decide that he's not worth your time anymore. Like, no, none of that is justified. But we don't view Vashet as evil. We understand her motivations. We understand why they're doing what they're doing. We understand
Yeah,
what it all is going on. So we're not looking at it in a. It's not a black and white. This is not a black and white situation where Kvothe's all right, Vashet's all wrong. I mean, there's a lot of gray in this situation, and I think that's more interesting. And
mhm.
I think that's likely kind of the route he goes with Denna as well. Is there's going to be a lot of gray to it.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine so, and I mean, well, so going down that path with what Vachette's doing. I mean, she's at this point is protecting the school, right? It's basically saying we made a mistake, or we may have made a mistake,
Yeah.
right? And you're not only is what so he was progressing, and this is a sign that he's gone off, not off the rails, but his progress is basically, well, I guess it's a sign that this might have been a mistake.
Yeah.
Right. Like whatever she sees in him, what she feels is that deep-seated need for revenge, or he's got a evil side within him that is not of the Lethani, and the Lethani will not solve it. So that's where it's like, well, this could be a big mistake.
She's putting it on notice that this kid's fate is on the line now. Like I didn't send him here looking like this because we were doing some training. She's like, I sent him here looking at like this, so you guys are ready. This might be the end for this kid. Basically just let him know that he's on trial right at that moment. She's going to be deciding his fate. So if none of those people, if they heard the next day that they crippled Kvothe and sent him on his way, nobody would be surprised after what she just did. Had she not done that and she not sent that signal, then it would have been like, hold, what the hell happened?
Well, so that kind of brings me back to why I brought where we got here in the first place. Is it's interesting that Kvothe, of all people, can't appreciate that there's nuance and reasoning in other people's lives that would be in a somewhat of a similar circumstance. He just can't fathom that Denna could have something any similar to his own life.
Yeah.
Right. And they're so much alike. They like parallel one another in a lot of ways.
Yeah. That's what makes me think that they're likely going to, he's likely going to have a very gray aspect to what the hell's going on with her as far as these beatings are concerned, where it's not going to be just complete black and white, where it's like, the guy's a complete villain for doing what he's doing. I don't think I will agree with it. Like, you shouldn't be going around
there should be better
unless
routes,
like she's doing something evil. Even then, it's like there's got to be a better way.
There's better ways to get your point across, to be able to communicate.
Unless she's like attacking him and he's just defending himself, but that's obviously not what's going on.
Well, it's not obvious.
Yeah.
Seems like a weird choice. It's like a really weird choice, but
he's just constantly defending himself. Like if you saw him, his face is always all black and blue. It's like he just gets in a couple good licks, but she just beats the shit out of him.
He's the teacher. He's the one teaching. She just keeps beating the shit out of him.
Yeah.
She gets very frustrated. She has a temper.
And he's just, now he's scared of her, so he keeps teaching her. But
so he's a kept man, and she's the one running the show.
Yeah,
pulling information out of him.
We got the exact opposite picture of reality. But yeah, and then so Penthe comes sliding up. At first he thinks it's either going to be Kvothe or Vashet, but it ends up being Penthe, and he's like, perhaps it was her small frame or heart-shaped face, but she didn't look much more than 20. So, one of their top tier fighters, about 20 years old, which is not that surprising. There's plenty of 20-year-old guys, but even still, that's pretty young to be a top tier fighter. I mean, if you're 20 and you're a top tier, you're probably gonna have a long career. But
that's, I mean, in terms of athleticism, like your ability to know what your body's capable of and have very little limitations, that's kind of right in the sweet spot.
Yeah, athletic ability, you probably peak around, mid to upper 20s, but with strength and all that kind of stuff. But 20 is pretty strong.
Well, what I'm saying is also that lack of limitations that get brought on, because your mobility starts to get limited as you get to I think like mid to late 20s. I don't know. It's hard to remember.
Most athletes peak in their mid to late 20s is like their absolute peak athletic ability. Sometimes their peak total ability doesn't happen until their 30s, early 30s, because their mind is peaking, and their body has not
the meeting of the two.
Dipped enough.
It's the meeting of the two, the experience that takes time. In terms of my athletic ability, I'm peaking now.
Yeah, I still have not reached my peak. Still feel like I'm about like 20 years away.
20 years away from the peak?
Yeah.
Well,
think about that. I got another 20 years of just gradual incline.
Well, I'm first of all, I'm not buying it, so I'm not really going to think about it. I'm not going to spend any time thinking about that.
But yeah, and so she's like 20, little tiny thing, but a dominant force in their community, and so there's a little bit of trepidation as far as like I better mind my P's and Q's because this is a prominent person in their society. But she ends up being very accommodating, very nice person.
It's an interesting kind of switcheroo on us because she's this amazing fighter, and then she's like super not just accommodating, but like very much self doubt. You know, in terms the subject matter obviously breeds that, and the fact that she's having trouble with language and wants help and all that stuff. Like it's a nice, it's a great balance from where we just were to be able to kind of give him some breathing space and have a connection with somebody. And then she even comes out and speaks on his behalf. So that's pretty interesting.
Well, and it's also good because he just got put in a situation where he's completely isolated. Now he's lost everybody. I mean,
Yeah.
when Vashet turns on him in this moment, then you're like, damn, this dude's all by himself. And so it's good to pull that back a little bit. Like, not everybody sees it this way. And you get another side of their society. Because you just laid it on with like people aren't eating the bread from him. And now Vashet just beats the shit out of him. She probably just severed even more of the link that he had with anybody who might have treated him with halfway decent. But then you get that other side where there's still people even that now that are not going to view him in this absolute negative way. And she's like, look, everybody's talking, and I hear everybody's talking about you, but I haven't met the man himself. So she's trying to get a first-hand account of Kvothe and see, get the truth of the matter.
I was going to say, speaking to like his loneliness, we really see it clearly coming up here where there's nothing for him to do. Like once he has nothing to do, it's like he just roams around, because he's got nobody to like hang out with. He can't find what's her face, ball kicking girl by the tree. So
Celine,
he's just kind of So he's just like distracting himself with things that he can do. But that's jumping ahead. But I like this chapter a lot. Penthe's the exchange is pretty great.
Yeah, she asks him, if they can speak his language. So she's trying to learn. She's just get once more practice with my talking. And he's like, I'll gladly join you, I said, Nature, and you speak very well. I am jealous. When I speak Ademic, I feel I am a great bear of a man, stomping around in heavy boots. Penthe gave a small shy smile, then covered her mouth with her hand, blushing slightly. Is that correct, to smile? He goes, it is correct and polite. A smile such as that shows a small amusement, which is perfect, as mine was a very small joke. I love this little interaction with them. The whole thing's great.
I would say that there are no small jokes, just small comedians.
Yeah. Yeah. Why? Yeah. I mean, if you're going to make a joke, don't make a small joke. Come out fucking big or go home.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah. Huge jokes. All huge home run jokes. I don't even believe in having a closing joke. All jokes are closing jokes.
All jokes are closing. So after every joke, thanks everybody, and then walk out of the room.
And then you come back and do it again. Yeah. If one of your jokes is not worthy of being a closing joke, it's not a joke. Don't tell it.
So no build up.
No.
Interesting. It's an interesting approach. Hard to execute, I think.
No. Hit home runs.
Okay.
Bring it, I've like every joke I've told, knocked it out of the park, crushed it, and that's what comedians should strive for. And also be humble about it.
Yeah, okay. You're obviously exercising that.
But yeah, he's like, normally I would smile in answer to yours, but here I worry others would view it as impolite. So she gives him a little hand signal, bold invitation, imploring entreaty, familiar welcome, must practice. And so he smiles, and I like she's like sitting there saying, I'm anxious about my smile. And he's like, you got a great smile, blah, blah, blah. And he starts explaining a gesture to her. And he's like, this is what you do if you're a man. This is what you would do, gesturing mild worry. And she's like, how do you do that with your face? And he's like, this is what you would do if you're a man. This is what you would do as a woman. And she's like, what? She's like, you guys have different facial expressions based on whether you're a man or a woman? And I love how complicated and complex she views our way of communicating with facial expressions compared to their sign language way of expressing themselves, and how, because she is so accustomed to it, that is the familiar approach and that is the easy one, whereas theirs is very complex.
Yeah, it's funny to consider because, obviously in a Tauren or our world, it's you don't even think about it. It's just natural, the natural inclination of how one would express emotion. She's trying to learn it. It's almost like she's a robot, trying to learn.
Yeah, and they get some familiarity with it because she's like talks about like there's the times you're with your family or when you're growing up and your friends before you guys, learn to not be barbarians and, make faces at each other. But
yeah, I was gonna say, so what's the difference? Formality? Like you're not going to be. I mean, yeah, you're not going to act with strangers, with people you never met before that you do with your family or best friends. But
what I'm curious about, like, because I don't ever think about this, like, do we smile in certain ways and make certain faces based off of what we've learned growing up? Is it something, I'm sure a lot of it is that, but how much of it is just natural? Like your little baby doesn't learn. I don't think a little baby learns to smile based off of looking, at how you smile and then's like mimicking you. Like a baby just smiles.
A lot of it though is mimicking. A lot of it, tons of it is mimicking. But yeah,
More,
there's a natural,
like some facial expressions and that kind of stuff. But like smiling, laughing, that kind of stuff, that just seems to come to babies immediately.
The really great thing is laughing because you can hear that it's natural.
Yeah,
it doesn't sound like anyone else is laughing.
Or you can see, like you can tell, like when a baby is thinking and like trying to process information. Like you do something that kind of they're like, "What the hell's going on?"
Yeah,
and you can see those looks on their face where it's like that's not a learned expression. That's just natural. So you wouldn't think it would be that difficult if they're doing that naturally in their home with each other, or they're doing that when they're kids. It's got to be taught out of them. It seems like they'd be somewhat, at least somewhat familiar.
What ends up happening, what you just described, is really quite amazing. Is like that look. That's the person being them. Their individual. That stuff starts to get leaked away, or they start to mimic more someone they saw on a TV show, someone they saw in a movie, and I remember doing it myself, where you start mimicking what other people, the way other people talk, the way other people act, the way they walk, whatever.
Yeah, he saw Saturday Night Live, man, and it was just nonstop for like years. Just John Travolta, Saturday Night Live, mimicking everything he did.
You talking about Saturday Night Fever?
Oh, whatever. Yeah, Saturday Night Fever. You know what movie I'm talking about, John? Yeah, but you know what movie I was talking about.
I didn't even know you were talking about a movie. You were talking about a TV show.
When I said John Travolta, you knew exactly what I was talking about. I knew
at that point. Yeah.
See, he's acting like John Travolta right now, and this is like that's like John Travolta and Look Who's Talking, where he's just nonstop arguing.
Wait, is he?
It's just John. Nonstop arguing I'm just trying to be John Travolta. Alley. Yeah, you're a huge John Travolta fan. Posters everywhere
of John Travolta.
Yeah, you were just a massive John Travolta fan.
So it's all like Pulp Fiction, Broken Arrow, and then like the beginning of his career.
None of his good movies, all bad, over the top movies.
So like, wasn't he
Face Off? You loved Face Off.
What was he in Angel?
Oh yeah,
that was like when it was like, oh,
Michael, Michael or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah. What the fuck? I didn't remember what the fuck we were talking about.
Talking about kids mimicking facial expressions and you mimicking John Travolta as a kid growing up.
One thing I did think about in terms of different types of smiles, like because she says at one point, it's so difficult to see when you show your teeth. I was thinking when you smile or laugh and you show your teeth, it's like the most genuine. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the only time like your teeth show is like it's hilarious, or you're that comfortable, or it's like, and many other I like even just the beginning where it's like she's trying to like figure out, or one of them was Kvothe does a bent smile, and she's like, "What's that?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm just mocking, but mocking myself."
Yeah.
And that is where you get to the part where it's like, there is quite a bit of nuance in terms of the nonverbal communication, which again just comes intuitively. Although a lot of that does. I mean, it honestly, like watching television, seeing examples of people making faces like that, where you can see what they're trying to communicate. And if you can't, then it doesn't work anyway. Whatever they're doing isn't working. So it's just you're just keeping people befuddled.
Yeah. Yeah, and then so she goes into, we're not always like this when we're with our family, and then she's like, ugh, and realizing that he's by himself, and he's like, I have none I'm close to, I said, general regret. I had hoped I was growing close to Vashet, but I fear I ruined that today. And Penthe nodded. I saw. She reached out and ran her thumb across the side of my face, felt cool against the swelling. You must have angered her very. I can tell that by the ringing of my ears, I said. Penthe shook her head. No, your marks. She gestured to her own face this time. With another, it might be a mistake, but Vashet would not leave such if she did not wish everyone to see. And he's like, shit. I didn't even think about that. This was intentional as a message for everybody else.
So, but the first time she meets him, she's rubbing the side of his face.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty familiar.
Yeah, and she's read the moves of the mating dance of single people.
The common practice.
Make the you got to make the touch, and she's probably wearing a big feather plume hat. She's peacocking.
Well, I was gonna say
intimate touch when she got the first opportunity for an intimate touch. She made it. She's and then he's like walking away. He's like, I'm not even sure if we were flirting.
Well, there is the point where he's like, no, you have a perfect mouth for smiling. It was one that I would, and he stops himself, write a poem about rather than sing a song about. Yeah. But it's like, this guy's naturally, I mean, it's almost like cliche the way the line comes out, but it's like, that's a pretty decent line. If he's trying to flirt with her. I mean, he is complimenting her face. Her looks.
The reason it would work with like Kvothe is he's not saying a line. He's just
he's being genuine. Yeah,
being genuine. Yeah, there's a difference.
When it comes across as when you wear
an angel fell from the sky, blah blah blah.
Well, when you
those
wear
kind of things, it's like cheesy as shit.
When you wear a felt top hat that's purple with a big black feather in it, everything you say comes across as genuine. That's why it works so well.
No, now one would know it would work is if you had like one of those little notepads that you flip the top of, and then you like walked up to a girl and you read one. You read like, an angel must have fell from the sky, whatever the stupid lines are. And then like that doesn't work. Then you look up at her, gauge her reactions, like, no, shake your head, no. Okay. And then flip to the next page and then try another one. Is that no? And then just keep going. That could probably work. That would probably get a laugh.
Oh my God. So if it doesn't work, you don't keep it in. You tear it out and you ball it up right away as you move through them. Be like, all right, I'm gonna find one here.
Yeah, I've every page is filled. Every page, I will find the line for you.
You're worth it.
Yeah, I think you could. I think I could pull that off. I think if I did that, I could get a laugh and get in. I think that would be an opening that would work, where I could get in.
Great.
Get in. It would be if it was for comedic purposes, you could get a laugh out of that. You'd have to do that approaching a girl that other people seem to see her as unapproachable, who are like intimidated by her. Someone that is like that. You want to do that with someone who normally intimidates the guys, and you go up just full on being a jackass where you're not intimidated and you're willing to make a complete fool of yourself because you don't give a shit, and then you're just being funny, and either she's going to have a good sense of humor or not.
That's a real case sensitive sort of read the room moment though.
Yeah,
like you get the vibes got to be right for that one.
You're not coming up to someone who's like in the middle of a conversation or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
You got to look for your opportunity, and then if it's like, especially like if she just like sent a guy away, and then be like, I'm calling next, and then you pull out your pad and start dropping lines. That's gonna be funny. That's gonna work.
I mean, it could. It's not the best, but If I could see that working. I could see it working. There's many other better things you could do, but I could see it working.
You have to drop the act pretty quick. Yeah. You don't keep it up. Like as soon as you get the laugh, drop it and just be like, "I'm just fucking with you."
And the real problem would be if you got nothing after that, then you're in trouble.
Which you and
if you open it,
and
you're just
maybe like
awkward.
if you do it and then you pull it back afterwards and you just like go up and go buy a drink. And it's like, I'm just fucking with you, and just like buy a drink and then kind of walk away and go back to your friends. Maybe come back later.
Yeah,
that might work too.
You'd have to read the situation, But I typically would make an observation of something that is happening in the room, and poke fun at that, and then just go off of that. And just.
But what's funny is like there's people that would be like oh, just treating it like a game. Like, yeah, openings
100%.
Openings are 100% a fucking game, man.
You have to.
If you're not workshopping your openings,
100%.
you're putting yourself at such a huge disadvantage.
100% have to. And dude, that's the only way to do it, because you need to treat it like light. If you make it big, it's never going to fucking work. No. Like, holy shit, man. Like, I remember like being like really young, and where it was intimidating, yeah, of course, it was extraordinarily. So you just have to get drunk and get through it and just make it work. And still, I mean, as long as you, again, it comes back to shooting the shot. As long as you at least show up and at some point you act like yourself, get all the awkwardness out, and at least act like yourself, could still work. But if you really want to help your chances, you got to have
not opening lines specifically, but ways to open a conversation.
Ways to open a conversation which you're comfortable with. As long as you're comfortable, they can be comfortable. And yeah, I would say, figure out something that works for you and try it. Try it multiple times. And eventually you'll be comfortable. And as long as you are comfortable, it's easier for them to be comfortable.
Yeah, like there's one of those sitcoms, How I Met Your Mother. They would do like a version of that, and their kind of opening was like one of the guys would walk up to a girl and be like, "Have you met Ted?" And then like just turn, and then there's Ted standing there, and it was just kind of a stupid little line, but it would like thrust the other person into the conversation and into a one-on-one with this girl. And so that was their little kind of mimicking of, having a little introduction and opening.
The opening was, "Have you met this person?"
Yeah, but obviously that's not a line I would use. It's not something great. I would go into, but that was spot. Like that was their, how they would write the opening. Yeah, it would just be kind of put two people in a situation where now they're standing face to face and like gonna have to talk to each other for a minute.
Yeah, that's not great.
No, it's not. I would not use it. But
not ideal.
They get the point that you got to have some kind of way to break the ice.
It's definitely easier to create your own. That's one of the fallbacks that seems easier, is have one of your friends go up. If they can start the conversation, that's fine, and then inject yourself. But it is what I learned was it's definitely easier for me to do it on my own, because
I figured it out in grade school with the notes. You write a note. Do you like me? Yes or no? Have your friend. Give it to the girl. Boom. Works every time.
Wow. Well.
But,
I'm not going to say it couldn't work.
Yeah. If you get the right person, they might think it's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then so, he realizes that Vashet hit him for a purpose. He's like, "Fool that I am. I did not realize this until now." And he's like, "Why did you come to sit with me today?" And she's like, "When I saw you today, I thought I had heard many people speak about you, but I knew nothing from personal knowing." And what do others say? I said, a small wry smile. She's like, "Yeah, what is that? What's that bent smile?" It's like, "Gentle mocking," I gestured in explanation, "but of myself, not you. I can guess what they say." And she lets him know that not all of it's bad. Some of the people don't view him in a negative light. And he's like, "When Penthe looked up at me and met my eyes then, they were huge in her small face, slightly darker gray than usual. They were so bright and clear that when she smiled, the sight of it almost broke my heart. I felt tears well up in my eyes, and I quickly looked down, embarrassed." And that's where you get just that simple kindness of someone smiling at him, being nice to him, pleasant with him, kind, just simple kindness can fucking tear this dude up. And that's where you get a a clear demonstration of how broken he is.
I mean, it's such a great context as well, because she's like, "Oh, I fucked up. I did something
Yeah,
wrong." And he's like, "No." Then he has to speak to it,
yeah,
like literally what the situation is from his perspective, and it is just like, damn, that's
yeah.
that's brutal.
Yeah, he says, "It's an unexpected kindness on a day when I do not deserve such a thing. You are the first to speak with me from your own desire, and there is a sweetness in your face, and that hurts my heart."
The whole "when I do not deserve it" such a thing is that's there it is. That's
Yeah.
that's the
On a
bottomless
day you
well that
didn't
is in
deserve it.
his
It's like,
yeah
really, what did you do, man?
yeah
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, I don't really like, I would see, I understand why Vashet thinks what he said was wrong, but like, was it worthy of that? Like, and is it worthy of, it's worthy of a correction, but not a, I'm going to fucking beat your face in.
That's why, like, to that, I do not deserve such a thing, is like that just like raw epitome of he can't fathom that he deserves psychological or emotional support, period. Like, no one needs to put themselves out for
To
him
believe
is
like you're
basically
not
what it
worthy of
sounds
simple
like.
kindness, a
Yeah,
smile.
that's
You
nuts.
don't
Yeah.
deserve someone being, just mildly kind to you. He's a broken kid, man. And
Yeah.
you have to put that in perspective. Like when people talk about, he's very arrogant, he's very cocky. It's like, yeah, he does have some swagger, but man, you want him to have more
Yeah,
because
well, in
he's so
of course,
broken and lonely and like you wish like he had the confidence in himself to realize like that he's worthy of having friends and worthy of having a relationship. If he felt those kind of things, he might not be on this quest to hunt down the Chandrian and go on this impossible goal that's going to ruin the fucking world.
well, and then also, how would you expect him to exist? He'd have to be arrogant and cocky, because when he's not, this is what we're looking
Yeah,
at, you know? I mean, he'd be like alone in his room fucking weeping
yeah,
unless Ari can pull him out of it. Like, he has to. He has to have this the arrogance and cockiness just to be able to function. And it's great. It's great that he
yeah.
does, you know.
That's
It's
the good thing. Like the
yeah.
bad thing is this: we
Yeah.
see the alternative, and the alternative is terrible. You do not want someone who feels like this about themselves.
Yeah, I mean, because it gets to a point where it's like you can't help the person. So
No,
that's what's so bad about depression is it's like you can't get them out of it. They have to find their way out of it. It's like you can't give somebody a map or
no.
like literally tell them the route out. You can just show them examples, maybe a story. So things of that nature can turn someone's mind around, but it's situational and everybody's mind's different. So you have no idea. But it's like things like this that makes it pretty clear where he doesn't even see himself as worthy, and it's like that pit is deep within him, you know.
Yeah,
And it
yeah,
is with Denna as well. I mean, and that's again how they parallel one another. They both have that super deep sort of embedded undeserved feeling. It's just, yeah, it's brutal.
yeah. And so he talks about her mouth, and he's like, "In my own language, it is a mouth I would write a." I brought myself up short, sweating a bit when I realized I almost said song. Poem, she suggested helpfully. Yes, I said quickly. It is a smile worthy of a poem. Make one then. And so he comes up with a poem for her, makes the deal that if she comes up with a poem for him, he'll come up with a poem for her. So he starts and he's like, I thought of the words I knew, the sounds of them. I felt the absence of my lute sharply here. This is why we have music after all. Words cannot always do the work we need them to. Music is there for when words fail us. And which is obviously a big theme of what comes up and how powerful music is for him and showing who he is, what kind of person he is. And but he's like double weapon Penthe, no sword in hand, her flower mouth curves and cuts a heart a dozen steps away. Basically, gives her. I think probably copied that from Ambrose. You would assume.
He has like he copped one of his notebooks, just
Yeah,
didn't tell the audience, didn't tell the
yeah,
readers. He
yeah.
copped one of
He's
the
just
notebooks when he was in
reciting
there.
Ambrose's poems.
He's been memorizing them. He's like, man, this shit does thump.
Yeah. God damn it! I wanted to hate him, but I fucking love it. I love his poetry.
We find that out late in book 3 that he's a massive fan of Ambrose's poetry this whole time.
He's
just been hiding
one
it.
of those people that like listens to some songs that he's not supposed to like, but he listens to it real quietly. He's just like recites Ambrose's poems, like he covers his head under his blanket, and he's got like a little light, and he just reads it to himself.
Yeah, he's got his little lamp. Yeah. Yeah, I can see. Yeah, that's what's happening here, man. He's like you in your car where you put the windows up so you can rock out to some Bieber.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. I roll that shit down. I want everybody to enjoy that. I spread that for everybody. I want everybody to feel that love.
I think there is a lot. There's a lot. I think there's an emphasis here that could loom pretty large, or at least kind of speaks to where Kvothe is. This is why we have music. After all, words cannot always do the work we need them to. Music is there for when words fail us, and that also gets emphasized in the next chapter. But he doesn't have music, right? So I mean, that's again with Kvothe, doesn't have his music. Whatever words are failing, he's just sitting there stewing.
Yeah.
In that deep state.
Yeah, and so he, she gives him her poem. She's like, then opened her eyes and spoke in a turn, burning as a branch. Kvothe speaks, but the mouth that threatens boots reveals a dancing bear. I don't know. I don't get that poem. Burning as a branch, Kvothe speaks, but the mouth that threatens boots reveals a dancing bear. The mouth that threatens boots.
He talked about his what is their language?
Attorney feels like a big bear stomping around.
Yeah, stomping around. And then
so she's making a play off of that. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, she's playing off of that. He's a dancing bear, so he's not stomping around. He's actually performing well, is basically, I guess.
Yeah.
She's what they call freestyling in the moment.
Yeah. He should have took it like Joe Pesci in the movie. You saying I'm a clown? Yeah.
You saying I'm a dancing bear? Is that what it says? That's what you're saying? You're saying I'm here to amuse you? That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Just go super straight face. Like, wait, what?
That's
a super offensive thing where I come from. Super offensive.
Now, me and you, one-on-one, right now.
Challenge is the best fighter.
Penthe's like, are you fucking serious? Like, slap her across the face. Let's fucking get it on. I'm gonna kick your ass.
I mean, yeah, I guess you could see him just going like, you know what? Fuck it. Yeah. I got a death wish at this point. You want to take me out? Let's go. I'll take on the most powerful.
Bring it. You should see what I did to Vashet. Her hand is throbbing right now.
But he likes it. He loves it. He was like, it's lovely.
I smiled wide enough to make my face hurt. It is lovely, I said. Honestly, it is the first poem anyone has ever made for me. And then he goes and sees Vashet. And he's like, I walked to Vashet's house as I usually did after meals. Half of me hoped she would greet me, smiling and sarcastic, the morning's unpleasantness put wordlessly behind us. The other half of me feared she would refuse to speak with me at all. And then he gets there, and he's like, I drew a deep breath and let it out, feeling myself relax, because he sees her sitting there and he thinks everything's okay. But as I came closer, I saw her face. She was not smiling. Neither did she wear the impressive Adim mask. She watched me approach, her expression hangman grim, impassive, Adim mask. But yeah, and I spoke as soon as I came close enough. Vashet, I said earnestly. I'm still sitting. Vashet held up her hand. I stopped speaking as quickly as if she had struck me again across the mouth. Apology now is of little consequence, she said. And she just basically tells him, look, I can't trust anything you say because right now you're in the grips of fear. Mm-hmm. You're worried about what I'm going to do. And she's like, and I know you can spin anybody to your desire with words. And so I can't trust you to speak and influence me. So just, I'm not talking to you. But she's like, early on, I noticed a gentleness in you. It is a rare thing in one so young, and it was a large piece of what convinced me you were worth teaching. But as the days pass, I glimpse something else, some other face that is far from gentle. I've dismissed these as flickers of false light, thinking them the brags of a young man or the odd jokes of a barbarian. But today, as you spoke, it came to me that the gentleness was the mask, and this other half-seen face, this dark and ruthless thing, that is the true face hiding beneath. And she's like, there's something troubling inside you. Jane has seen it in your conversation. It's not the lack of the Lethani, but this makes my unease more, not less. That means there's something deeper in you than the Lethani, something the Lethani can't mend. And she lets him know that if this is the case, I shouldn't have taught you, and now I'm going to, make my decision, and I'm going to decide whether this was a mistake or not, and I'm going to take the time to think tonight, and then tomorrow make whatever preparations you need, and then come back and we'll settle this.
There's a couple things. One thing I do find interesting is that she says that she noticed a gentleness in him, and you wouldn't expect, if you said, in this world their biggest trait is fighting, you wouldn't expect gentleness is something that they would, covet, but they do.
And one thing a lot of young people are not great at is empathy. It's not something, even people who, see themselves as bleeding hearts that care about everybody. Most of the time, they're not very empathetic. I mean, like all you got to do is point out a person that they don't like, and their just complete inability to be able to see something from someone else's eyes and someone else's perspective that, they can't even fathom that someone would disagree with them because they came to a different conclusion based off of, information. It's they think differently because they're evil. You see that a lot with young people. It's more heavy. You see it in people in general, but I think it's a bigger trait in younger people, is because you don't have a lot of experience with a wide sector of society to understand that people come to different conclusions sometimes, and it has nothing to do with whether they're a good person or a bad person. Sometimes people have different experiences and have different ideas.
I think a big part of it comes back to that tribalism. It's team oriented. I'm on this team, they're on that team. What are the list of things that I agree with? And if anything's in violation, immediately everything else they think is shit.
Yeah, right? But that's more of a general thing. You see that just generally with people. I'm saying, like, young people lean towards that more. They're much, and I know I was much more idealistic and hard-headed, and thinking that everything I knew, like anybody who didn't get it, either was just stupid or ignorant, or they're just bad people, and not understanding that, people are different, and they grow up in different environments.
Everybody's got a different character arc.
Yeah. It's like we're not all living the same lives. Yeah. So, it's easier to become more empathetic the older you get and the more experience you have. And so I think that might be what she's hinting at, and when she's saying it's because he is a very empathetic person for the most part. He's a very caring, and it's not just like caring. He's able to kind of understand people and understand why they do the thing. And that's part of what makes him like probably a good performer and actor and musician, is that empathy aspect of it.
Well, well, again, so that's an interesting trait. Again, just on the face of, if you said this society, they're all about fighting, you just picture a bunch of brutes.
Yeah.
There is a lot of nuance within their society, which is, I mean,
they're not very much like brutes, though. They're not like that at all. Yeah.
No, I know. I'm saying, again, if you're just, but what's great about it is this is one of those attributes that would level them up in your mind, where they look at themselves as very sophisticated. This would be one of the reasons why, right? And when you have empathy, when you have appreciation for the nuances in other societies, I mean, you call them barbarians, but Penthe's trying to learn their language. Now, they need to learn the language if they're going to, immerse themselves throughout society anyway, but there's still appreciation for that barbarian cunning, right? Things
I don't necessarily know that I would say that they're super empathetic, but I would say that they're super focused on doing the right thing. And even if they don't understand the, barbarians and they don't empathize with the barbarians, they still have an ethic that guides them, that keeps them in line.
Well, that's a great point. That's kind of the defining characteristic between, I would say, the individuals when you're looking at someone who is empathetic, someone who's not, or just a broader outlook towards society in itself. If you have that prejudice just on the face for other people, that should be weighted, if you're going to be open-minded, weighted by their ethical outlook.
Yeah.
Right? Are they doing the right thing? Are they decent people? If they're decent people, then who gives a shit about any of the other traits.
Yeah.
Right? What language they speak or what clothes they wear. It doesn't matter as long as ethically they're sound. Right?
Yeah.
At least, but then it becomes a question of what's ethically sound, right? So then you have to weight all that with your own, feelings on things. But I mean, that's why the Lithani is so great, is they have this guiding principle. What I find interesting also about this part here is the idea that something that the Lithani cannot mend. Where are they judging that? You know what I'm saying? In her experience with her, she's come to the conclusion, and Cheyenne came to the conclusion from her talks with him, that there's something deeper that the Lithani is not a salve for. Where's that coming from?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can kind of sense it in the sense of, like, there are psychopaths that are just gonna be a danger to the world, and there's no fixing that person. That's who they are, what they are, and there's no getting that. It's not like you're gonna have conversations with the person, and they're gonna stop, and they're gonna go back to not being a mass murderer or something like that. Like, a Ted Bundy, you're not just gonna talk to him and he's gonna become like a good upstanding citizen. He's a danger to such a high degree that you can't even risk it.
Do we see that in another? In my mind, I was thinking we see that somewhere else in a judgment of Kvothe in the books. Does that happen in another circle, another group, like Kilvin? I don't know.
Well, I mean, you have like Elodin is very hesitant to teach him anything, but not in a. I don't see anything in a sense of, like, this kid is too dangerous to teach. The Adem are very concerned about it, obviously, but I don't see it in just the overall world.
Well, I mean, so for example, at the school, they don't give certain access to certain things, because certain principles, because what you would be capable of being able to do if you had those. Now he's able to find them out anyway, but frankly, in so many ways, he shouldn't be trusted. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, as soon as he gets in an argument with somebody, he's like, "I'll murder you," every time, right? He is definitely someone who will engage in malfeasance. There's no doubt.
Well, and we know, like, what his arc is. Like, he gets all this power and then fucks up the world. So it was probably not a good idea to teach him.
So Ben fucked up, man.
Yeah,
it's all about Abinthe. Abinthe is
a major
the
catalyst.
Darth Vader.
Yeah,
he's the Darth Vader of this world. The Emperor or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, he's more like the Emperor than and Kvothe's more Darth Vader.
They cast him that way.
Yeah,
like they have, like, instead of
it's the same guy wearing the Emperor's costume.
Instead of him just being like, this affable, like really lovable guy.
Picture Abinthe as the Emperor from Star Wars, but they went full on Emperor from Star Wars.
Like same face, same skin tone,
same exact actor, wearing the same exact costume and makeup and everything.
No, that's a little too on the nose, I'm going to say.
That's what you got to do if you're going to go at it. Go at it hard.
So when we first see him and he calls the wind, it's like it's
unlimited power.
That's the vibe.
That's what that fucking gets Kvothe's nipples all blown off, and he's like, I want unlimited power.
Unfortunately, if they decided to go that route, we would lose all the fucking nuance that's in the book, or the subtlety that's in the book, because from beginning, we're like, all right, so this is evil, And this is the evil genius that's just going to keep advancing. And then everything is like this society. They saw some problems here, but he's clever and he's charming. So his charm and his ability to act is his way of working himself through the world. But he's just an evil genius, and his kid's raised a sociopath.
I think that's the way to go with it, with an adaptation. Like, we've come up with a lot of good ideas. I think Abinthy as Emperor Palpatine is a great one. Really good idea.
So,
Rothfuss, Mr. Netflix, whoever you get into Mr. Lionsgate, like, go ahead and feel free to take that idea.
So instead of Kvothe being likable, you start him out as not being likable. And then you give traits.
He could be likable. Anakin Skywalker is a likable character.
Maybe the child.
Even the kid, he's not like unlikable. He's just like not. It's just not great writing, and acting is not top notch. But I don't look at the character and be like, I hate the character. There are parts that are pretty bad, like the shit with Padme. Like, oh my god, what is this? What am I watching here? You guys are doing like a Star Wars rom-com?
Yeah, that was so disappointing. So disappointing.
That second movie, man. Whew, it is a bad one.
Yeah, really unfortunate.
Yeah.
Those first three, man, they set a tone.
Well, and that first one, you're like, all right, well, the Jar Jar Binks was pretty bad, but there was some cool stuff. Darth Maul was
I actually like that movie.
Pretty dope villain. Darth Maul is like, I mean, that's a massive redeeming quality. Darth Maul.
I like that movie a lot more than a lot of people. I was actually surprised with how many people were shitting on it, because there were a lot of things that were visually stimulating. There was a lot of things that were enjoyable. For me personally, I just liked the movie on its own. I thought it stood up. I was more talking about the first three sets such a high bar in terms of expectations of where this can go.
Yeah, that's one of the big problems with the Phantom Menace is that it's being compared to the original trilogy, which those are, especially the first two, Empire Strike Back and In a New Hope. Those are two, like, people are like, these are all-time great movies. And then the Phantom Menace, even if people like the Phantom Menace, nobody's like, that's an all-time great movie. No. Nobody's claiming that. They're just like, no, it's not bad. I liked it. And that's not, I mean, okay, that's fine if you're not coming after all-time great series of all time that's going to be legendary, it's going to live forever. And you want to come up with something better, then it wasn't bad.
Well, and some of the other ones that have come out more recently, they're enjoyable to watch. Yeah, I will watch them again. You know? I didn't come out hating it, but the one we were talking about with Anakin and Padme is oof.
Yeah, that one sucks. I cannot watch that movie. Really it was just a bad movie. It was badly written, badly acted. There's not really anything about it that I'm like, man, that was okay.
The attempts at comic relief fall so badly. It's so poorly timed. Where I remember
writing,
being in the theater,
like, whoever wrote that, like, man, oh man, that's like, that guy's got to feel really bad about what he did, like, or if he's self-reflective at all. Like, whoever wrote that, it was bad writing.
Jesus.
Well, it is.
No,
like,
but
I'm sorry, there are bad written movies, and you wrote a bad one. If you do not, if that guy listens to this and he's like, hey, like, no, hey, you go listen to what you wrote. You made me listen to. That's the hay. The hay should be coming from me for having to listen to and see that written there. That was bad shit.
I would like to think if that he could fall back on. No, they fucked it up in editing.
Yeah.
But
I didn't write that. That was actors ad-libbing. They changed all my writing.
What I was going to say though was, if to go as far as saying if he's self-reflective at all, then he should go back. That's really kind of, digging it a little bit deeper, where it's like, no, I'm right. You put out a turd, and we all had to smell it and just stare at it for 2 hours.
Yeah. Go figure out what you did wrong and don't do that again.
Please.
Maybe he's put out some fucking bangers since. Maybe he's got stuff. I'd be curious. I'm going to look that up after this. Like, I'm going to look up that writer and see if, I don't even know who wrote it. Maybe Lucas wrote it. I don't even know.
One of the things I think I have noticed in some of the later movies is they just kind of chilled the fuck out with the responsibility. I think what they were taking in with those three movies, they were like, we have such a huge responsibility that maybe they overthought it. I don't know. Typically, when there's too many heads in the room, you know what I'm saying? And it gets overproduced. It gets
That's
over.
100% the problem with
Yeah.
the newest trilogy is there was too many cooks in the kitchen. I mean, there was they completely the first movie was going one direction, then the second guy came in and was like, "Nah, you're gonna do it something different," and then the third one was like, "Well, everybody hated that." You know, not everybody, but a large amount of the fan base hated that to the point where the third movie sold the worst, which is not ideal for your closing to
Yeah.
the Star Wars 9 episode movie series of Darth Vader and the Skywalkers, and you end that with a flop. Like, oh shit, we
Well,
fucked up. And like, but then the third movie had to go in a completely different direction from the second movie, and they just fucked up. That second
without
movie
cohesion.
completely, him deciding to go in a different direction, it's like, you want to go in a different direction, that's fine. Just do it on something else, because this trilogy, it's got 6 movies.
It's all over the map.
There's, well, not even 6, there's 7 movies that were all pointing in one direction. You can't just turn it around at that point. You're fucking up. There's too much. Too much has already been done. You want to do your own thing, do something outside of the Skywalker story.
Yeah, well, I guess what I was more referring to, where they just chilled out and just kind of made some movies, was like Rogue One. You know,
Yeah.
like some of they're just on a different. It's just in that world, I guess you could
Yeah.
say, and
Yeah,
they're
Mandalorian's great.
enjoyable.
They still put out some good stuff. I love the
Yeah.
Mandalorian. I even like the Boba Fett, which isn't as well liked as the Mandalorian, but I liked it. The Han Solo movie gets shit on a lot. I didn't think it was that bad. I thought it was a solid movie.
I don't think
I
I
would have been
saw the.
curious where it was going to go,
Yeah, I haven't seen that, but
but
the
I mean, those are fine. And like, if you want to go in completely different directions, I don't give a shit about that. But
I
it
will
was like,
say,
when you're doing the episode 8, no, you got to you got to keep going in the same. You got to keep rowing the same
yeah.
way. You can't
Well,
change direction.
I will say, out of those three, I didn't walk out like hating any of the three on their own. I think I've seen them all, but yeah, I'm probably not an authority given that I'm not even
Yeah.
sure if I have. But I do. I mean, I wasn't upset that one we were talking about. Yeah, 100%. It's just like, dude, why did I waste my fucking time?
When I saw the second one, I was like, uh oh. I was like, at that point, it wasn't like I was like, this is the worst movie ever. But I was like, oh man, there was a lot of bad in that, and there's a lot of really cheesy bad stuff in that movie. And then, and like, they're on a chase and then like take a break to go to the casino. There's just some stupid decisions, but it just, yeah, it was like, well, I don't know how you. When I saw it, I was like, I don't know how you save this now. I don't know what you do in the third movie where you can finish up what you did for the first 7 movies, and what are you going to do with 9 now that 8 went in a completely different direction? Could have kept going further in the opposite direction, but you're gonna piss people off even more. They were in a no-win situation with that last movie at that point, because you just set so many people on fire. Like, I wasn't like livid or anything. I just didn't think it was a good movie. But it got real bad. The ninth one, there's just no saving it at that point. But anyways, back to the Kingkiller Chronicle. So he goes and he makes his preparation. He's like, for a while, I wandered aimlessly. I went to watch the sword tree, hoping to find Celine there, but she was nowhere to be seen. Watching the tree itself did nothing to soothe me. Not today. So I went to the baths and I soaked myself joylessly. And he's like, half my face was red and swollen. Bruises beginning to mottle blue and yellow around my temple and a line of my jaw. I had the raw beginnings of a profoundly blackened eye. And this when his temper flares. He's like, once he sees himself in that mirror, then he's like, a low anger flickered to life deep in my belly. I decided, tired of waiting helplessly while others decided whether I could come or go. I'd played their game, learned their language, been unfailingly polite. In return, I'd been treated like a dog. I'd been beaten, sneered at, and threatened with death and worse. I was finished with it. And he does a really good job of ratcheting up the tension here. Like, especially the first time you go through this, you're like, oh shit, what is this idiot about to do?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That line about well, I don't know if it's here in the next chapter, but when he walks away with Vashet and she didn't have her sword with her, you're
It's in
like,
the next
whoa,
chapter. Yeah.
what the
Yeah.
fuck?
Yeah, he ratchets up. Like, he starts making preparations. He's like, I missed dinner and the sky was growing dark. By the time I came back to the school, I went straight to my room and closed the door behind me. Empties his pockets, and he's got 2 fine, soft beeswax candles, a long shard of brittle steel from a poorly forged sword, a spool of blood red thread, a small stopper bottle of water from the bath. And he points out that this there's fire in this water. He's like, people don't realize how much heat is in water. But so he's like, this is like better than giving a sympathist a glowing coal.
Yeah, a great source too, because it's from the pools that are always kept warm. So yeah, that's tremendous.
Yeah, and he thinks of Penthe with a twinge of regret, but and then he makes a moment. And I sat in my room thinking dark thoughts as the light faded from the sky. I looked over the tools I had gathered and knew deep in my gut that sometimes the situation grows so tangled that words are useless. What other option did I have now that words had failed me? What do any of us have when words fail us? And I love that part. What other option did I have now that words have failed me? What do any of us have when words fail us? Because when you're reading that the first time, you're thinking he's like, fuck it, I'm going to wipe these people out and I'm going to use violence. And what he really came to the conclusion is I'm going to use my music. I'm going to use the thing that has the most impact on people emotionally and that I've demonstrated to people who I am with, the most.
It's so tremendously done because what you said is true. It's hints at, well, I'm going to resort to violence. I'm going to start stabbing a dude repeatedly and do what I did to the bandits or something. I mean, all those images can come in your mind. But in this chapter, he gave us the answer. He told us, when words fail, what do we do? A poem's not sufficient. Song, right? And does define him who he is. Like that was his original introduction to Vashet in the beginning, where she's just like, "Oh, and you're a musician with everything else? God, you're a piece of shit. You're really just a really disgusting piece of shit, aren't you?
Yeah,
a tawdry whore or whatever."
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's again, Rothfuss. This displays, as far as I'm concerned, this displays his mastery that he's able to weave all of that in, and then again, just the small suggestion of she didn't bring her sword when she follows him. Dot,
Yeah, because the next chapter comes up. It's 121 when words fail, and it just keeps on that same note of making you think that it's going to go in one direction. He's like, it was well into the dark hours of night when I approached Vashet's house, but there was candlelight flickering in her window. I didn't doubt she would have killed me or crippled me for the good of all of Dimright, but Vashet was nothing if not careful. She would give it a long night's thought beforehand. So when she sees him, he just immediately steps back, is very submissive, and treats her to follow him, and she's curious, so she ends up following him. And then it mentions her eyes narrowed suspiciously as I stepped away, but after a moment's hesitation, she followed me. She did not bring her sword. Which is, yes, very ominous. And then he was like, it was a clear night, and we had a piece of moon to light our way. I led us up into the hills, away from the school, away from the scattered houses and the shops of Hare. We walked more than a mile before we came to a place I had chosen, a small grove of trees where a tall jumble of stone would keep any noise from carrying back towards the sleeping town. That is very ominous.
Mm-hmm.
Reading in a certain light, and so he just keeps moving in that direction. And he's like, moving slowly, I reached into the deep leeward shadow of a nearby tree and brought out my shade. I draped it carefully over a low-hanging branch so it hung like a dark curtain between us. Then I sat on the other bench bent and worked the clasp on my lute case. So then you're like, oh, he's gonna fucking play music. Smart move. Very smart move. And like, this is gonna open up a completely different side to him, and the fact that we view that there's something magical going on about his music, I think
Mm-hmm.
is even more demonstrated here. Like even someone who has a raw disgust of music, and or not even necessarily like a raw disgust, but she thinks it's tawdry, and there, it is a little bit of sliminess to it in her eyes, but she's blown away by it. She finds herself like staring at him like, what is this kid doing?
What's really important too is, as they may not have the appreciation for music, what it gives him the ability to do is to excel where he's best in their world, which is
Yeah.
when he's sitting with Cheyenne and Sleeping Mind's taken over, right? Or Spinning Leaf. Or it's when he goes to the tree, and the tree is not just about you making it to the tree uncut. It's about how you do it, how you act, what you bring back, and your composure. It's all about, like, that's more important than just dodging leaves, right? So
Yeah.
his ability to play what's deep inside of him for her, he can't just say that in words. He can't just explain, especially him. He can't he can't talk about what happened to his parents. He can't tell anybody. So,
Well, and also too, like if you saw Kvothe play, and you're picturing him as like all-time great musician type, if you saw an all-time great musician, it'd be like, man, I can't destroy this. Like, look
yeah.
what this guy brings to the world. Like,
Yeah.
no, I posted that video of that kid playing the guitar, that Marcin, some
Yeah,
Polish
it's
kid,
insane.
and he's unbelievable on a guitar.
I
And
do.
I posted it because I was like, this is what you do if you're doing an adaptation for the
Mhm.
music.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because you can't write the perfect song.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
just not possible. But what you can do is, like, anybody who sees that kid playing, no matter what song he's playing, whether he's playing Mozart or he's playing Led Zeppelin or he's playing something else, you see that kid playing and you're like, whoa, that kid's something else. He's different. And
That
that's what you aim for.
that what's so impressive about what that kid does on the guitar. It's not, I've heard other people play fucking Led Zeppelin, but be able to play Mozart and capture pieces of music that take like 30 musicians to be able to perform, and he's doing it on his own on a guitar, playing in a way I've never seen somebody else play. It's amazing. It's another level that I've personally have not witnessed myself.
Yeah.
I've seen people, I mean, do incredible things, and I've seen people do incredible things uh, musically, or heard people do incredible things musically with far less notes and allowing like the space between notes to breathe. But what it's very rare, at least in my measure, to see something and hear something that is completely like you didn't think was possible. And that's what that
Yeah.
does. That's why it's a great what you're proposing there is a great way to go with it, because like you said, you can't write the perfect song. I mean, if they do it, fantastic, great.
Yeah.
But you have to blow their doors off. And how do you do that? How do you show that Kvothe is otherworldly, that he's a ridiculous talent that would be ashamed to have,
Yeah,
gone from
well,
the
the,
world?
the the perfect song is so dependent on the audience
Yeah, yeah.
and the listener, and so,
Interpretation.
but like, you could take, no matter where that kid performs, you put him in front of people, and they're like, "What the fuck? Who is
Yeah, it doesn't
this?"
it doesn't matter if they like country music,
Yeah,
rap music, it doesn't matter. When you hear that, you're just like,
yeah.
"Whoa,
There's
what?"
there's a song of him playing still Dre, and he's playing that, and you listen to it, and you're like, dude, this kid is unfreaking real. Like, I mean, he's playing. It didn't matter the song. You're like, I don't understand how he does what he does on a guitar. I've seen other people play guitars fast, but he does shit where he just starts playing notes with both hands, like,
Mhm.
and he's not using one hand to strum. He's like
Yeah, yeah.
plucking with both hands, and it's like, I don't understand. And then using the tapping of
The
the
guitar, yeah.
guitar,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
just
yeah.
like tapping the
To use it
wood
for
part
like
of it, and
percussive. Yeah.
yeah, and to add bass and everything. And it's like, I don't I don't get how many this kid's got, like 50 hands. I don't understand how his mind can process things that fast, where he can do all these different things one after another, and he's not missing strings or anything. Like I don't get it. And that's why you see it like when he was, on stage and like everybody's standing up cheering and all he did was play like a 2-minute guitar riff.
Dude, so think about that, and then one of the strings breaks.
Yeah.
And doesn't miss a beat and is able to, dude. Yeah, that's a great find. I don't know if I would have come across that. That's a great find, and especially in the context of what we're talking about, getting his what do you call them?
Yeah, if they don't consult that kid, or at least like maybe use him playing it, like when you're zooming in to the hands playing and it's him playing, they don't do something like that, they're missing such a huge opportunity, because no one can watch that kid. If he could act and you could dye his hair red, yeah, that'd be the kid.
If he, you're gonna need
you'd have to start filming now, because you're gonna age out of the role, but
you're gonna need a really, really talented actor. But yeah, if he could do that, this dude's gonna be a mega star.
Yeah.
A mega star, which he should be anyway, frankly, for what he's capable of doing.
He does. I mean, he gets millions of views, so he is.
I think it's probably already a done deal that it's going to be Ed Sheeran, right? He's just going to be both.
Yeah, Ed Sheeran, but that kid. But then they're going to have like he's wearing a big coat, and that kid's going to stick his arms through the back and play the guitar for him.
You know what? I love this idea, and then the big reveal in book 3 is this entire time Kvothe's been 2 people.
Yeah.
Coat.
Rothfuss is going to change. Yeah. He's going to change the books. So that coat is Ed Sheeran. Yeah. That's why he doesn't play music anymore, is because that other kid died. Marcin died.
You know what's important is Marcin, whatever, he would be Coat, because he's literally a coat. He's literally he's the coat that.
Well, no, you want the guy that can't play music's got to be the coat.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Well, wait, no, he's the guy playing the music. He's his hands, right?
Yeah, but if Coat is the guy that is the amazing guitar player, he would still be able to play music. It makes more sense if Ed Sheeran is the one, because he can never live up to those skill levels. So if Ed Sheeran is Coat, he's the one that can't play.
Okay, but he'd be the one singing, right? So the other dude's lip syncing.
Yeah, he's the one singing. Yeah,
we gotta nail this down.
Yeah,
before
that's gonna be tough, man. We're gonna have to really work on this. We're gonna have to write a lot of.
We're gonna have to really workshop it out, but I mean, this is clearly
definitely got a good idea. Something. I mean, that's obviously what you have to do now with both books. With the books and the adaptation, you definitely Ed Sheeran and that kid. That's 100% how the movie's got to be made.
So Kvothe is in the thrice locked box, and he's just being fed small little morsels of food.
Yeah,
through the keyhole.
Slow little beaker squeezing out, fucking drops of nourishment into his mouth.
Oh, this is my new favorite theory we've come up with.
Yeah.
He literally is 2 guys, and one is just a big coat on his back. Yeah, I love it.
Good stuff. All right. And then, so he's like, I began with In the Village Smithy. I did not sing, worried Vashet would be offended if I went that far. But even without the words, it is a song that sounds like weeping. It is music that speaks of empty rooms in a chill bed and the loss of love. Without pausing, I moved on to Violet Bide, then Home Westward Wind. The last had been a favorite of my mother's, and as I played, I thought of her and began to cry. Then I began to play the song that hides in the center of me, that wordless music that moves through the secret places in my heart. I played it carefully, strumming it, slow and low in the dark stillness of the night. I would like to say it is a happy song, that is sweet and bright, but it is not. And eventually I stopped. The tips of my fingers burned and ached. It had been a month since I had played for any length of time. They had lost their callousness. Looking up, I saw Vashet had pulled my shade aside and was watching me. The moon hung behind her, and I could not see her expression on her face. This is why I do not have knives instead of hands, Vashet, I said quietly. This is what I am. It's just a great way to write all that. And especially, you got just that kind of heartbreaking side of Kvothe, where
Mm-hmm.
he's like, I would like to say it is a happy song, that it is sweet and bright, but it is not.
The phrase, the song that hides in the center of me, that wordless music that moves through the secret places in my heart, that whole thing, he's recreated this so many times, where that first time he's with Denna and Ludi McLuderface, whatever his name is, and he plays, the first time.
Callan Moneybrickshaw.
No, not him. When they're around the fire, when he
Oh
first plays for
yeah,
somebody after his time.
Javen.
Yeah, and she like runs. She like has to flee, and she's so upset.
No, that was I. Did she leave? I thought like the
Yeah,
mom left. Maybe she went away. But
and
yeah,
like
like he had everybody fucking
everybody's
all
jaws are
blown
dropped.
up.
Yeah, they're just like, what the fuck is this? Which I mean, again, trying to just imagine what that is. That's a feeling of like, holy shit, this is like the deepest, most experienced individual. Like a mixture of things. It'd be like, this is the best musician I've ever heard in my entire life. I didn't know someone could do this.
That's
On
why I say
top
it's got to
of,
be magical. Like, and I think that's probably what there was some magical thing going on here, and the sense that it's not just like he plays a song that sounds sad. There's songs that sound sad, but songs that just rip the guts out of people, where
yeah,
there's not even lyrics. It's just the
yeah.
music, and it just rips their guts out. Where they feel the pain and the anguish that this kid has gone through, and they're just like, man, this kid's had a fucking bad run, and they
Well,
feel horrible for him. And like, how
mhm.
do you do that with just music?
Well, and kind of one of the beautiful things about music is it's not just they're feeling for the kid. It's everyone has sadness. You're recreating that feeling for everyone, and it's like fucking amping it and injecting it straight into you, and now you're experiencing something just by listening
Yeah,
to someone creating this. It's one thing to do like what I saw that you had sent, which is that dude's playing incredibly difficult music fast and all that. Fast is one thing, but to be able to pick the right notes at the right moment, and to be able to, it's again that space between notes and making it like letting it breathe. And there's a lot of that in this. I don't know how that gets accomplished. I've heard certain types of music, and I jokingly mentioned like before Kenny Burrell, but that some of his music is like that, where it's just fucking tremendous. But that's a supreme challenge to try to inject this though into a movie form or a
yeah.
television show.
It's
Like,
gonna
how do
be very
you?
hard to. And I don't. I think if you're doing an adaptation, you abandon the idea. You don't oversell it like they do
Yeah.
in the books. You can't oversell it that this song is the song of all songs and it's going to
Mm-hmm.
bring everybody to tears. You can't sell it like that in an adaptation because it's not
Mm-hmm.
realistic.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah.
there's not a song that exists that every time anybody hears it, it breaks them down into uncontrollable weeping. Some people cry, but most people don't. So
Remember
like
this
you can't recreate that.
the song at the end of Goodfellas? I was at a bar once, and there was like an older woman who was clearly really drunk dancing by herself when that song was playing, weeping. It's like one of the saddest things I've
Yeah.
ever seen in my
Yeah.
life, where it's just like, Jesus. And now I think of that every time I hear that song. It
Oh,
was
that's
the end of
good.
Goodfellas. It's a sad fucking song, but what I always associated with it was like this great, or no, maybe it's Casino. It's one of the two. But basically, it's like all those movies, Blow, Casino, Goodfellas, where they're riding high as shit. What a great like life they're living in certain aspects, and then it all comes crashing down and everything is shit, right? That's
Yeah.
what the song basically signifies, is that experience of everything at the end sucks. It's terrible.
The
None of it worked.
opposite of the reality of what almost always happens is like they go and they ride really high and they have some terrible shit in their life, but like they don't face cosmic justice almost never.
Yeah, yeah,
Almost never. They almost always get away with whatever they did
yeah.
because they're already in a position of power and they can utilize that power to get
Wield
off.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's a movie, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so that was always the feeling with that, and then to see it in that form with a drunk woman dancing by herself weeping is like, I gotta go home. This is the saddest shit I've ever seen in my life. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's how you do it.
Yeah, just show some sad lady dancing by herself, and that's how you get everybody emotionally weeping.
What I'd like to picture, and in that moment, Coat just kind of peeks his head up out of Ed Sheeran's back and does a wink to the audience.
Yeah. Marcin like starts poking his head up through the back of the jacket and looking up. Ed Sheeran like reaches back and starts shoving his head back down.
No.
You're gonna give up the game. Play the music.
You know your role, bro.
You're the hands, man. You're the hands. You got those beautiful hands.
His hands are over.
Yeah. You see Ed Sheeran's hands, and he's just got warts all over his hands, and they're gross looking, and
they're all mangled.
It's like, they're all pussy and sweaty hands.
He's got this idea of his hands are over his hands. Yeah. It's so absurd.
He's got terrible, like, locked up hands, like they're all like claw looking. Yeah. That's why he has to do it. That's why he needs someone to play the guitar for him.
Maybe that's also why he was so successful with Florian. He could really do thousand hands because he had 4 hands working, you know?
She's like, I mean, 2 of your hands are kind of gross and clawy, but they feel like clammy. Like, I don't understand that, but somehow it just feels like you got 4 hands. We come up with great ideas, man. We got great adaptation ideas.
I feel like these literally 2 people. It's so ridiculous. Oh God.
But yeah, so then we got the last one we'll do is chapter 122, Leaving. He's like, the next morning I woke early, ate quickly, and was back in my room before most of the school was stirring and in their beds. Shouldered my loot, my travel sack, and he gets his shade, gets all his stuff, gets ready to go to war or to not go to war. He's just preparing for the worst case scenario. And then when Vashet opens the door between my second and third knock, she was shirtless and stood bare-breasted in the doorway, which is not the worst aspect of the Adem. No. Especially if a young man living in that society wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I would not frown on that part of the world.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like, it is a morning for visitors. Come in. Or she's like, it is a morning for visitors. Come in. The wind is chill this early. Getting a little THO.
Yeah, I would say so.
And, and so she tells him that 2 people came to visit. And she's like, first there was, she's like, then almost before first she says it was Penthe. The sun was barely in the sky when Penthe knocked on my door. She knew I was angry with you, and though she did not know what you had done, she spoke on your behalf. Then almost before the door had time to close, Caesarette paid a visit. She congratulated me on finally giving you the treatment you deserve. And so she's like, whose opinion do you think I respect the most out of those 2? It's like, yours. It's like, you're right, but, even then, Penthe's in more control over her emotions. And Vashet's can be angry as a man when the mood is on her, which I love their continued denigration of men, like their idea that they're just these barbaric, simple-minded fools who just are completely out of control with their emotions. Which, I think the idea you could see where the idea could fall a little flat is if women were physically stronger than men. Women a lot of times are more volatile, but they're not as physically intimidating. So it is not necessarily like as dangerous as a volatile man. But I've seen girls get very mad at me, and I did not feel threatened because of the physical difference and knowing that I had that on my side. But I've had situations where men lose their shit, and it's like, uh-oh. And if the women were bigger than me, with as much as like I've seen women like lose their shit, like it would be like, you guys would be just like us. if you guys had the physical advantages, you guys lose your temper just as bad. Just the physical violence, the difference there is the men are the bigger and more violent group because part of it is because you are more bigger and you have less threats.
Yeah. It's part of it is it's a possibility.
Yeah.
So because it's a possibility, there it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the biggest part of it. But yeah, we're not that different when it comes down to certain aspects.
Yeah, being emotional, like we have different emotionals. Like guys are more likely to their anger is more directed in a different direction. Like girls are much more likely to cry and those kind of things. Like our emotions impact us differently, but for both guys and girls are extremely emotional.
Human beings.
Yeah.
Human beings happen to be emotional.
Yeah, and men do not have a lead on anger issues. Women and men both have anger problems, and when you're talking about generally. But and then he was like, and what have you decided? I asked. She shrugged her bloodied shirt over her head. You were still a puzzle, gentle and troubling and clever and foolish. Her head emerged from the shirt, and she gave me a serious look. But someone who breaks a puzzle because they cannot solve it has left the Lithani. I am not such one. He's like, I'm glad. I would not have enjoyed leaving Hert. Vashet raised an eyebrow at that. I dare say you would not. She gestured at the loot case that hung over my shoulder. Leave that here or people will talk. Leave your bag, too. You can take them back to your room later. But I love that where she looks at him and is like, yeah, you probably wouldn't. But she also doesn't know what he did to the bandits. She doesn't realize the true threat that Kvothe represents. She thinks I can just fucking work this dude. She doesn't realize that if he snapped, he could kill her without her being able to do anything in retaliation. He just simply called the name of the wind. She's dead. He could throw her into a tornado and there's nothing she could do.
She thinks she 100% knows what he's capable of.
Yeah.
Because she's simply thinking hand, sword, that's it.
Yeah.
She's not thinking about any other
magical abilities. Yeah, he's not performing magic in front of her. And she hasn't heard what he did to the bandits. Like when she hears that and she looks at Kvothe like, what? It's like, shit, I was grabbing this dude by his face and swinging him around, smacking the shit out of him. But yeah, and then so she tells him to bring his cloak, though. I will show you how to fight while wearing it. Such things can be useful, but only if you can avoid tripping over them. This is one of those aspects where I kind of lean into the unreliable narrator. She probably didn't tell him to bring his cloak, but if she did, she would have. She's been mocking him over everything. Everything. Every opportunity she's been mocking him. And you're telling me she didn't mock him over his nerd-ass cloak?
Well, not only that, she goes as far as she commented on it being very fine, strong, and durable.
Yeah, that never happened. No way.
Anything unusual about it. Yeah.
No way that happened.
Yeah, that's where he's injecting his salesmanship. He's been using these stories to try to sell cloaks.
Yeah, that's what's in the thrice locked chest. He's got a ton of cloaks.
He's got to unload these.
Yeah, he's not been able to sell them because they're nerdy as shit, and he's just like, look, wait until they read this book. I need a companion. I need something that people can read that really builds up cloaks and just makes that a fashion thing, and then I'm gonna be rich.
So he's got like his Air Jordan version of cloaks.
Yeah,
I don't know what the symbol would be for Kvothe. He's got like a talent on there, silver talents or something.
Cheeks all puffed out as he's blowing wind.
That's what it is?
Yeah.
He's got like the Dizzy Gillespie look.
Yeah, because he likes his cloak billowing. He likes the name of the wind. Yeah, that's what his thing's gonna be.
He likes the name of the wind.
But yeah, and so days passed. I continued to spar with Celine and eventually learned to protect my precious manhood from all forms of uncouth attack. Slowly, I grew skilled enough that we were nearly even in our bouts, trading victories back and forth. This is the top level he gets to the point where he can stop a 10-year-old girl from jacking him in his testes and he can go 50-50 with her. Granted, she's probably the top 10-year-old fighter in the world, but she's still a 10-year-old little girl. So it's not like he's and he gets to a point where he when he wrestles those guys on the boat on his way back to Emery, he's able to toss their best wrestler, so he gets pretty solid at it. I mean, he's not like a bad fighter at the end of this.
I get the impression,
but he's not like otherworldly fighter. Like he's not like Tempe.
No, I get the impression that being able to go basically, like you said, toe to toe to a degree with Celine means he's exceptional in the world to the normal everyday. Like he can definitely handle himself in a bar fight.
I view it. I kind of the way I view it is like my chess ability. Like it almost never happens that I meet someone in person who's better than me at chess. But if I played in a tournament or if I played, online with people who play chess all the time, I'm going to lose. I'm not like at the level where I'm going to beat top notch players, and and I don't play that much where I would beat people who are playing consistently who are good. But if I just play the average person, I'm going to fucking smoke them in chess. And I almost never lose when I play just random people that I meet that say they know how to play chess. But, and I think that's kind of the situation for Kvothe is like, he's going to beat most people he runs into. But if he goes into a place where that's what they do for a living, they fight, I don't know. Is he going to win in that situation? I doubt it.
Are you kicking a lot of people in the balls when you play chess?
That's how I win. I mean, that's my first move. And then they resign and I win. That's why it needs to be in person and I struggle online. Yeah. It's because I can't start off by kicking them as hard as I can right in the crotch.
I mean, it's such a great move because under the table, they're not going to expect it.
They're like, oh, my first move is the pawn. My first move is my heel right up into your fucking guts.
My first move is to kick somebody in the balls.
That's against the rules. Not how I play.
We didn't establish that.
Yeah, you should have made up the rule before the game started. But and then
that's tremendous.
Yeah, it's like then there were even a handful of conversations with Penthe at mealtimes, and I was glad to have one other person willing to occasionally smile in my direction. And Penthe's making that move, man. That's what she's trying to do. She's trying to get in there.
Yeah, and she's into a little firebrand here.
100%. She wants that anger. And, but I was no longer at my ease and heart. I had come too close to disaster. Whenever I spoke to Vashet, I thought twice about every word. Some words I thought about 3 times. Should have been like that from the time they told him that they might send him away crippled.
Yeah.
And he definitely should have got it the first time she chastised him. Yeah, shouldn't have took that third time.
Put his shoulder out of socket. That should have sunk in.
Yeah. And then, and while Vashet seemed to return to her familiar wry and smiling self, I would catch her watching me from time to time, her face grim, her eyes intent. As the days passed, the tension between us gradually wore away, fading as slowly as the bruises on my face. I like to think eventually it would have disappeared entirely, but we were not given enough time for that. Almost the same thing he says with Abinthe.
Yeah.
But,
I do get a similar impression, yeah.
Came like lightning from the clear blue sky. Vashet opened her door to my knock, but instead of coming outside, she stood at the doorway. Tomorrow is your test, she said. And for a second, I didn't understand what she was talking about. I'd been focusing so intently on my sword practice, my sparring with Celine, the language, the Lithani, I'd almost forgotten the purpose of it all. Oh, and also, too, on that, it seemed so similar to what he says about Abinthe. It's almost the same exact situation where like he crossed a line with Abinthe to where it set things off, and he crossed a line with Vashet. It's a very similar repeating theme in his life that he constantly is stepping over lines.
When he's stepping over a line where it's like, you can't be trusted with this. Yeah. This isn't for you because you don't respect it enough. Yeah. Yeah, it's very, very similar. And that,
he pulls him back in. He brings him back in where they keep feeding him. But yeah, and then he's like, so soon? And it's like, Shane feels it would be best. And I like the fact that, if we wait another month, there could be snow keeping you from moving freely on your way. But yeah, it's complete bullshit. They're just like, people are starting to like him. He's starting to build some relationships with people. Celine and the little kids are watching him. And it's getting to the point where if they go and snap his thumbs off or slash his Achilles or whatever they want to do to maim him. There's going to be some people that are going to be up in their feels about it.
Yeah, it's. I like that he calls her out, where he's like, "Yeah, you're not telling me the whole truth. You just don't want them to see me as a real person,
Yeah,
so they can stomach this."
yeah. And he finds out Penthe had black and Red eyes 2 days ago in an argument about him, which I love.
He's getting all these women worked up about him, dude.
Yeah,
He's
I love
really-
that Penthe dotted Red's eye because Kvothe can't do it, so at least Red, someone needed to dot her in the eye.
Yeah. I mean,
she's an unlikable person
She
from
is.
Jump Street,
From
and
the get-go,
never becomes anywhere does she become likable. It's a very pleasant thing to picture Penthe just jacking her one right in the eye.
Or Vashet, right?
Red.
No, it was Penthe. Oh, okay.
Penthe,
no,
black in Red's eye. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and so he's like, I knew enough already at this time to read Vashet's small silence for what it really meant. Suddenly, her muted mood, her stillness made things much better. And she tells him, Cheyenne must attend to the best interests of the school. She must decide according to what is right. She cannot allow herself to be swayed by the fact that some few are fond of you. At the same time, if she makes a correct decision and many in the school resent it, that is not good either. Another shrug. So, am I ready? Vashet was quiet for a long time. It's not an easy question, she said. Being invited to the school isn't merely a matter of skill. It is a test of fit, of suitability. If one of us fails, we can try again. Tempe took his test 4 times before he was admitted. For you, there will be only one chance. She looked up at me, and ready or not, it is time. Great way to end that chapter.
Notching up the tension again.
Yeah, and it really is, it ratchets it up when the fact that, it took Tempe 4 times and, it takes these people multiple times sometimes to get through it. So you don't even know how many people get through it on their first time. But
the funny thing is,
got one shot at it. So
it just feels like the way it feels on the first read is your test. It just feels like he's going to fight somebody.
Yeah.
It's going to be a test of him fighting. But they even mention it's not just fitness, it's suitability. And the suitability is, I mean, that's all defined with the tree. Right, rather than just his ability. And what's really great about, I know we'll cover it on the next one, but what's really great about it is he does it the way he does it. You know what I mean? It's not the way. And
he also uses what they do. Like he uses their movements. He's dodging, when he's stepping aside of everything, he's taking the perfect steps. He's using like the K-10. He's moving like Cheyenne. And so he is using that, but he's also, he's using straight up magic too, though. He's like, the reason he's able to step out of the way and step perfectly is he sees the pattern and everything, and he knows exactly where everything's going to fall. So he knows exactly where to step, which is why I say that their fighting ability, what Cheyenne does, it's got to be magic, because the only example we get of it being done from inside someone's head is Kvothe doing it, is when he's naming. And like, that's not just something you don't just train and become able to perfectly step out of the way of everything. Like, that's not how shit works.
I love, though, that the way back, he just stops. He's like, he just stops the tree from doing what it would typically do.
Yeah, he stops the wind. Yeah.
He just strolls back like a big old pimp. And
just lets one slice his hand up.
Yeah. Pretty badass. All about the imagery. This dude, he's theatrical.
Yeah. Right. And do you think like during that scene, like he'll obviously, you would think he'd want his cloak on, and then Marcin wrapping his legs around Shrian's back and like holding him like around the back and just kind of like piggyback ride.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's got the.
That's why he wears a cloak. Holy shit! That's
100%.
I've been talking shit about him, and the whole time is like, if he's not wearing his cloak, he's giving up the game that he's got a guy hanging onto his back.
Yeah.
When he plays his music.
That's what I was saying. That's why it's coat.
Yeah.
With the Kote,
I mean, we have to look back. Like this might not even be a change for Rothfuss. We might have figured out something in the subtext, because has Kvothe played music without a cloak on?
So this whole time, so that's the thing. This whole time, it has been Sixth Sense, which we talked about early on. It is Sixth Sense.
It's not necessarily Sixth Sense. He just has not told anybody about what's his face, Marcin or whatever his name is.
Martin Gramatica. That's who he's got on his back.
Marcin in Poland. I can't remember the kid's name. I'll try to remember to.
The last name's hard. It's a hard one.
I'll put it's a Polish
hard,
name.
There's a hard RZ in there or something, man. It's like
Raziak, Petraziak, something like that. I can't remember, but if I don't remember, put it in the show notes. If you just hit me up on Twitter or whatever, I can show you the link of it if you want to check the kid out. He's amazing.
Yeah, we should actually put a link to like the YouTube video you're talking about.
Yeah, I know. I'll try to remember and to do it. I just sometimes I forget on that kind of stuff when I'm doing it. So
in terms,
if I don't remember, just hit me up on Twitter, or Instagram, or whatever.
In terms of the tree, well, I guess with the tree, if I mean, I guess we don't need to go as far as speculating that he doesn't know the name of the wind. What it is just two heads are better than one. That's the theme.
They're both blowing different ways.
Well, the
blowing leaves out of the way.
So the theme, when Rothfuss says he doesn't know what theme is, the theme is teamwork. Two heads are better than one.
Yeah.
If there's two people trying to attack whatever the task is, they can get it done.
I think it falls apart if he doesn't actually have magical abilities. So
could be a problem.
One of them, at least one of them, has magic.
The Prestige. Remember? Prestige. How was he able to do these things? There were two of them.
There's two of them.
That's how they were able to do it. So he's homaging.
He could be homaging Prestige, yeah.
Well, think about the alley scene. How does that work? Well, it works so well because there's two of them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's how he lit threw the salt up and lit it with the other hands.
Yeah, and how the bandits worked, it wasn't just that the lightning struck. It's one of the dudes was doing the Ben Franklin up in the tree.
Yeah. Marcin was like, he's real tiny, and so he was like sneaking around, slashing people's ankles and making it look like Kvothe's doing it from a distance.
He's just rolling around. So he's like a little flippy flip. He's got Cinder's like abilities.
Yeah.
He's just flipping around everywhere.
Yeah. No, I think it's magic. I think it's magic. Obviously, yeah, 100%. Marcin and Ed Sheeran. It's got to be a duo. One guy on the back. But yeah, we can't get stupid with it. I mean, it's obviously magic.
Yeah, keep it stable to the ground in terms of how the theory can work.
Don't want to throw out everything, but yeah, clearly we figured out in the subtext that Kvothe and Kvothe are actually two people, and Kvothe has been the musician the whole time.
Well, wait, Kvothe is the musician. Right?
Again, we got to iron that out, man, because we're not on the same page there.
Kvothe the hands and arms, and Kvothe is the face.
But why is Kvothe like not able to do the hand thing with the fighting, and like he's like got sloppy hands when he's holding the holly brush? But that's because he's not the one that plays the music.
No, exactly. He's locked up in the thrice locked box.
Yeah, the guy that plays the music
is Ed Sheeran. Yeah. Is the singer. Ed Sheeran has the pussy hands.
Ed Sheeran is Kvothe with his mangled hands, and he can't do any of this shit.
My bad. Yeah. So, well, I think what happens is they switch names. There it is.
Yeah,
they switch names, lock them up in the box.
That's why I said I chose chose a new name for some of the obvious reasons, but some of the unobvious reasons. That's one of the unobvious reasons.
It's not obvious that he's
because he was jealous of Kvothe, who was the badass musician.
Yeah. It's not obvious that
obvious that he took Kvothe's name because Kvothe has been the better musician than him and he's jealous. That's not obvious at all. It took us to figure that out.
So what?
Man, you guys really getting a fucking treat this episode.
This is really good. So, and that's one of the other hidden themes is he was born a twin, but he's got so much deep resentment for his twin's musicianship that he just doesn't. He won't even let it out the box.
He's just writing him out of that, and like he's got the real Kvothe. He's got his mouth taped shut.
Yeah,
because
in the box.
Because he wants him to hear the story and hear that he's being written out of the story. And
Man, that's really deep resentment.
Yeah, he's just sticking it to him. This is that coat, man. The coat in the bar, the fake coat.
Yeah,
it's kind of a dick.
Yeah, he's really a dick.
Kind of reevaluating what I hope happens to this guy at the end of the story.
Yeah, this is what Vashet saw in him.
What? But what a tragedy! This is a tragedy.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Not the tale of brotherly love.
Wow, my nips are blown off.
I'll talk about making it pop and sizzle, man.
Yeah,
pop, sizzle, and solving the conundrum that is Kvothe, coat Kvothe.
Get your pop rocks ready when you listen to this episode.
Your pop rocks?
Yeah, we're gonna make it pop and sizzle in your mouth.
Ah, yeah, got it.
All right. Well, boom. Enjoy that. We'll be back next week with his little test.
Boom.
All right. Peace out, folks.
Yep.